Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Psychogenic Symposium. I am back here with my wonderful friend Will,
Hi, everybody.
as well as with a new face, today's guest, Paul from Hearts of Arcana. You want to say hi, Paul?
Hi, Paul. No, hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. First guest. I'm honored.
So, for those who are here the first time, Will, do you wish to give a rundown of what this podcast is all about?
This podcast is the Psychogenic Symposium. We talk about game design. We choose a system. We sit down. We'll talk about the system, what it is, what you can do with it, that sort of stuff. Maybe stuff we have done with it, experiences we've had in the past. We'll break. Usually it's about a week, and during that week, we will have 3 cumulative hours to work on a piece of design based on a prompt one of the other people on the podcast has given us. And then we come back, we discuss what we did with them, things we liked about what we did, things we might rework on if we had another pass, things we like about what the other people did, or suggestions for how they might change things.
Yeah, exactly. And today, we are back with Draw Steel,
Woo!
which is quite a system. We're really excited to be back. After our initial 3 episodes, we've decided that our first sort of full season of the podcast will be Draw Steel. So with that, we hope to have a guest on, like a new guest on every week until sort of the end of the season. And with that, Heart of Arcana, do you wish to sort of tell us who you are?
Yes. Who am I? Well, hey, folks. Yeah, Paul Ligorsky here. I am the Heart of Arcana as well in the MCDM community. For the last several years, I've kind of since Draw Steel was in playtest, I've kind of been all in on Draw Steel. But I write and design third-party products for a variety of systems. My focus for the last any reasonable amount of time has been exclusively on Draw Steel, and I have designed so far 2 magic items. I've designed 2 adventures. One is done and currently in layout, or it's being put into layout, and hope to be releasing that very soon for everybody, called The Tomb of the Crescent Moon. And I have another adventure that's still in testing, a Norse-inspired adventure called The Cave of Amber Tears. And that one is still in active development. And then some folks who may be familiar with the MCDM Homebrew channel, I just released a little sneak peek, a little teaser of an oceanic ancestry that my friend and I are working on, 5 oceanic ancestries, and we gave a little sneak peek for the Great Finns, which are like shark inspired or shark humanoids. Yeah,
Nice.
I think I
yeah,
saw those actually.
yeah, super fun.
Cool.
Shark Week. It was Shark Week. That doesn't really mean anything anymore, but because what is television? But we were like, hey, this is an excuse to give folks a little teaser, and I think we also know the adoration that the MCDM community has for sharks and Shark Week. Thinking back or harkening back to Sharkadia when that
I,
came
I,
out,
I still think that was I still think that was the best issue of
it was
Arcadia released.
so good,
Arcadia.
so
It
good.
was great.
I'll have to take y'all's word for it. I'm still not much of a community guy. All right.
Yeah, and then I guess just one other thing that's kind of worth mentioning, I suppose, because it's interesting that you say that, Will. One of my saying that you're not much of a community guy, but at least in the MCDM community, at least whatever it is online. The other thing that I do is create community. I'm a community, kind of creator here in my little corner of California, and I host 3 times a month TTRPG events where we play a bunch of different TTRPGs. We just had an event um, almost 2 weeks ago where it was just Draw Steel, 3 games of Draw Steel, super fun. But kind of the goal of that is to introduce folks to different TTRPGs aside from Dungeons and Dragons, and give people that might never get a chance to play, and also DMs and GMs a chance to play if they're usually stuck behind the screen.
Right, and that's called Tales from the Tavern, right?
That's right, Tales from the Tavern. Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
have
I
a lot
love
of
that
fun.
game.
We have a really great time at those events.
We've already described Draw Steel in our previous episodes, so what use is for us? But for you, I imagine you have quite a unique view of the system, of your sort of weight in it, what you're interested in it specifically. Would you mind describing a bit, like why you like Draw Steel, what the system means to you, like what elements of it are most important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to note too that I've thought this about myself for a while now, is that I am the ideal customer for MCDM. Everything that they've released back from Strongholds and Followers, I've been all in. I really just love the approach to design and the thoughtful intention that goes into the design. But specifically for Draw Steel, I think why I like it, and I heard you mention this on episode 2, um, of the Psychogenic Symposium, is that you're tired of fifth edition. And I think what it reading into that a little bit is kind of one of the reasons why I like Draw Steel. I think it's worth mentioning that I don't only like it in contrast to the mechanics of 5e, whether 2014 or 2024, that I like it on its own merits. And as evidenced for the folks that, saw the entire arc of game development, they didn't just say, okay, we don't like fifth edition, and that's why we're making this new tabletop role-playing game. They started with first principles. And that was
Right.
certainly evident through all the ups and downs, weaves and turns that they went through in the game development cycle. Um, I would say the first thing that I really like about Draw Steel is that it is a system designed like intentionally. And I guess what that means is that like all the different elements serve the same purpose. We were chatting just very briefly about this before we started recording, but Will, you also mentioned in a previous episode the Psychogenic Symposium, which is such a great name, by the way. I might
Thank you. We did
ask.
work hard on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I might ask in a few minutes why or where that name came from if you haven't already talked about it on the podcast. But Will, you talked about how second edition is one of your favorite systems for many different reasons. But what I think is really interesting about those older editions of Dungeons and Dragons is that they're kind of like pieced together.
Yeah.
That there's layers of tradition. If you it's like sedimentary layers that they were like, okay, we need this foundational element, and then we're going to tack on this system. Oh, and here's THAC0, and here's like percentage
Hmm.
resistance, like all these disparate elements that are coming together that don't necessarily fit together, but they're just kind of like
Right.
stuck, smushed together to create, I guess, a system.
Yeah.
And of course, the 5e that folks play nowadays is, the evolved version of all those different elements that they've tried to make work and smush together. What I really appreciate, this is a long way of saying that I really appreciate that they started from the ground up with Draw Steel. So like the way stamina works, the way recoveries and victories, the gameplay loop, that
Mhm.
it's all in service for that emulation of the heroic, tactical, cinematic fantasy. Right? Did I say all the 4 keywords? I think I got them.
I
I
think so.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's like the number one top. I've never really thought about like why do I like Draw Steel so much. Um,
It's fair.
but I think that's kind of at the top. That's what's most attractive to me. I can talk as well about like why I like designing for it, but I'll pause there. If you guys have any questions or anything that that you want to say in line with that.
Yeah. I am. The idea of it being like sediments is really interesting to me because as you mentioned, second edition AD&D was one of my favorite editions of D&D, and I've played every edition of D&D from second edition AD&D through the 2014 version of fifth edition D&D, and it's really telling to me the kinds of things that stayed with the system and kind of formed this
Mm-hmm.
core of D&D that TSR and then Wizards of the Coast and I guess Hasbro now at the top level don't really feel like they can deviate from. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you see that a lot in some of the backlash to fourth edition
Mm-hmm.
D&D because there was a
Yeah.
crowd of people for whom fourth edition was great and people really loved it, but there was also a large crowd of people who didn't necessarily disagree with the game design decisions, but didn't feel like fourth edition was D&D, it was missing
Totally.
something, and
Absolutely.
I think that
Yeah.
is really those weird bits of the system that have become core to it that in the beginning were just these little weird things that were added on, and maybe and if you were designing a game from core principles, you probably wouldn't include just because
Of
they don't
course
mesh
not.
well together.
Yeah, they don't fit
Yeah.
together. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love that idea. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. Like what defines D&D, right? Like especially as a person who is not necessarily a game designer, right? They're just like, I am a consumer
Right.
of this brand. What defines D&D for me? Yeah, alignment, class, race, or species, whatever. Um, but yeah, what is it that makes it feel like D&D? And there's probably a real specific answer to that. Yeah, and
Oh
fourth
yeah.
edition totally flipped that around. Yeah.
I am that's when alignment I think is probably the best example for me
Mm,
because you can see that fifth edition moved away from alignment being mechanical in
right.
any sense. Like if you look at spells like protection from evil or detect evil and good and all of these other spells that have alignment names in them, they don't actually interact with the alignment system.
Right.
And you can even see, at least in from my view, from a design standpoint, in the backgrounds, how they try to kind of replace the alignment system with a more, uh, I don't know if robust is the word, but a more story focused system with having those like bonds and flaws and all that, those tables in the background that help you build a little bit more of a personality for your character. But they can't take alignment out
Right.
because alignment is a part of D&D,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they clearly game design wise don't like alignment
It has
because
nothing
they're
to do
not
with the game.
making it
Yeah.
a mechanical thing. It's really just there.
I think that's one of my reasons why I really am not a fan of sort of modern D&D a lot of the time is because I think Hasbro, with its size and its sort of corporate nature, it just is unable to take risks in
Mm-hmm.
that way, like and change and make these big changes or deviate from what is sort of normal, like looking or what is from what has been used in the past, like, and looking at like the new D&D edition, it's very similar to the old one, and it feels like they just polished it slightly and then came up with something that they want to be able to use to sell new books with. And I think looking at that versus Draw Steel, which feels like it is much more of a risk-taking sort of system. I don't know. I think the difference is clear, and it's and that's why I'm super excited to Draw Steel and not so much about 5e.
Totally. Yeah, and I suppose it's worth talking as well about like what is Draw Steel about. And Matt Colville, of course, is on record with his one of his videos. I forget which one it is. I think it might be Why Are We Fighting? Anyway, he talks about like what is fifth edition about. And there's not really a good answer to that question because the fantasy that fifth edition is attempting to emulate, like when I sit down and I play a character, I I come to the table with this modern fantasy, where I'm like a superhero ish, uh, but indeed that is not how the system. The system doesn't reinforce heroic behavior, and for me, this came really this crystallized for me. I was running a 5e campaign with my friends, and one of the party, their they had like these two, not necessarily adopted kids, but they were caretaker for these two young boys who were brothers, but of different backgrounds. One was a goblin, one was like a little fawn, and they learned that one of them had been abducted, and they knew where that little boy was, and they were like, I gotta go. I'm going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I am leaving right now. And the rest of the party knew, but they're like, we're going to take a long rest. Like that's cool. We're not gonna help our friend. Their friend, meanwhile, like solo incursion into like an enemy base. It was super cool. It was fun. They were a druid, um, spore druid, and yeah, it was just a super fun little like side adjacent component of the session. But that to me was so anti heroic. Like in a modern fantasy film, like that's the moment. That's like the key moments. Like our friend's gone. We've got to go after them. It's certain death. It doesn't matter. We're going. They're our friend. Like
Hmm.
we've been through so much together.
Yeah.
We can't leave them alone. But and it's not my player's fault. It's the system, which is like they're not going to go into combat with all their spell slots gone, like less than half their HP remaining. They had just finished a fight, so they're like, we're going to take a long rest.
Yeah.
It's whenever a game is designed, like again, all these mechanics again were designed like back when the game was a dungeon crawling game,
Totally.
which believe me, I love that. I love that way of play. Like I'm a big OSR fan, but it just does not fit with what most people are using 5e to do
Mm-hmm.
in sort of the modern sort of gaming.
100% agreed. I think there are a few more things that I think are worth mentioning about Draw Steel that I really love, and I get so excited by. And I suppose these are across the boards, whether I'm a director or a player. Uh, Titles are so fun, and I know you guys were talking about titles when you were talking about Draw Steel, but those are so cool, so much fun, and they immediately, when my players, I ran a session of Draw Steel last night. My players like, what? These titles? Like, oh my god, immediate like ambition. Um, excuse me, and also, I guess similarly along that same line is looking at the magic items and the treasures. It tells you how you can craft them. So I guess it all serves for that player ambition. My players were making rolls last night. My player who's a null is like, I want these bloody hand wraps. I will have them. They will be mine. And it's like, I don't care how many respites I need to take. I will pursue. I think the ingredient is like a bolt of cotton soaked in the blood of 6 adventurers. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, that's interesting. Like, get your
yeah.
get your persuasion rolls
Yeah,
going. But yeah. So that's another thing that I really adore about it. The
Yeah.
ambition that it instills and it installs in the players.
I love titles.
yeah, no, I love them. Since our last Draw Steel episode, I've been running Draw Steel
Oh,
at
cool!
my sort of 5e game turn Draw Steel, and
Congratulations.
because we've had like a year long break from it, so we returned in
Mhm.
Draw Steel, and there's been this moment where the party was in like these like infected caves or like this like sort of fungus thing, and there was this giant onkeg, or I guess in Draw Steel parlance in Eric's, that was attacking the party until it started fleeing. And so two of the players were like, "Hey, can we chase after that thing?" I was like, "Sure, go for it." And they did. And we had a whole little like side session, and I gave them the Monster Hunter title, and
Nice.
they were so excited to be like get these like custom titles for doing something really like in character and heroic. Like we're chasing after this monster after it fled.
I love that.
It's really cool. Like it just these titles just let you reward players in such a satisfying way.
Yeah, I love when systems give the the director a way to reward players for play, for going through and doing things that they know their characters would do.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fun for me. That's why when I made my thing for epic slash just Greek mythology, I knew I wanted to do a title,
Mm.
which I kind of shoehorned in there. I think it might have been more cool to do a title based on the 12 labors of Heracles than the slaying of Medusa, but the slaying of Medusa one fit with the other stuff I was doing better.
That's
So
right. Your shield that you were working on. Yeah. I mean, I guess, hey, that's just another thing you get to work on for Draw Steel.
yeah,
Mhm.
well, we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't do a lot with draw steel, which is I guess a little bit funny given we're doing a whole
Given the
season.
I'm
focus. Yeah.
I'm the big draw steel head, and I've ran a few sessions for Will over here, and we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoy the system quite a bit. I'm not in any like regular games of draw
Yeah.
steel, and I don't currently have any groups that I'm like that I think are interested
Hmm.
in playing it, so I just don't have much direct interaction with the system.
And that's totally cool. And that's, I think, a wonderful thing about the position of TTRPGs right now is that maybe the spell of D&D has been broken, right? Where like there's this I mean, it's still, right, like the biggest TTRPG, but I
Yeah.
feel like and maybe this speaks more to the folks that I'm playing games with, but like the ubiquitousness of that being the only game that people are playing and talking about and the only game that people want to play,
Right.
at least for me, has very much shifted, and it's been really exciting to see all these other games come up and be like, cool, Draw Steel is one of many games that I am
Yeah.
super excited to play. It's one of many games I'm super excited to design for, because it's so specifically about something. It's about this specific flavor, and I don't always want that flavor. Sometimes I
Right.
want sci-fi horror, and so I will go play some Mothership. Or as we were talking about before, I want my Redwall vibes, so let me go play something else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I do. Yeah, I do love that. For me, I've had a similar experience. I'm in a regular Sunday group that's been playing now for. I've been in it for 9 years now. No, ten
Wow.
years. Yeah. And we technically played not D&D, but it was Pathfinder First Edition, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's basically 3.5 D&D.
For sure. Yeah.
For a while, but we've been playing a lot of different systems in the last like 3 or 4 years. We've been playing we played I'm trying to think. One of the first ones is one of the DM, all of us have DM'd at one time or another. So the current DM was running a Pathfinder. I don't remember what they call their like pre-made 5 or 6 book adventures, but
Mm.
one of those. And in between books, as kind of a palate cleanser and to give him time to prep the next book, he was running a Blades in the Dark campaign.
Oh, cool.
And I absolutely fell in love with Blades in the Dark. It
Yeah.
was so fun. And then we've played like Battle Lords of the 23rd Century, which when he brought it
Whoa.
up, I had never heard of it. I was
I've
like,
never
what
heard
the
of
hell
that.
is
That
this?
sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi game with it's like a sci-fi like mercenary D100 based game set in the 23rd century, and there are aliens and all that fun stuff. It's really
Mm.
it's a good time. It's a much like Call of Cthulhu and a lot of other similar D100 systems, it's pretty deadly. Your
Nice.
character, don't get too attached to your character. And then we've played a couple like 3 or 4 sessions of a Mutants and Masterminds third edition, which is D20 based, but it's designed from the ground up to be like a superhero role playing game, so it's very different, and it was pretty fun. And now we're on to Earth Dawn second edition,
Oh, wow.
which I get the wonderful pleasure that the DM who is running Earth Dawn second edition for us was one of the lead editors for Living Room Games.
Are they the people who made the game or
Yeah, Living Room. Well, I don't think Living Room Games made Earth Dawn. Earth Dawn, I think, was by FASA. Living Room Games are the people who made second edition Earth Dawn, though.
oh I
Mm.
see, okay.
And
Right. They
yeah, I get to play
licensed.
with Aaron Johnson, who is one of 2 credited senior editors on their editorial staff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That is really cool. You mentioned before how you think the 5e sort of stranglehold is sort of loosening,
Mm.
and I think it is. I think no matter what, it's always going to have sort of the primary market share of
Yeah.
RPGs, like for people going into the hobby. But I think at least the online sentiment around 5e is definitely shifting.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I don't know how much that sort of equals actual
Right.
sort of proof of its
Right.
dominance, but I definitely have felt like a vibe shift.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the future holds, right? But indeed, right now,
yeah.
it's
Exactly.
the dominant force. And but who knows? Maybe with us mentioning this, it has put it into the weave, and the spell will be thrice broken, and a different
Maybe.
market share leader will
Perhaps.
emerge.
Perhaps. Again, it feels like people actually talk about books that came out for D&D. I don't hear it as often. At least I don't think I do. It may just be I'm not in those spaces that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It it feels like I don't hear about it as much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a shift. I mean, the creative leadership at Wizards of the Coast, of course, has been in flux. Jeremy Crawford
Yeah.
and Chris Perkins leaving, and now Justice kind of taking over, inheriting that mantle, which is really unique because Justice is beloved in the MCDM community.
Yeah.
Of course,
Mhm.
his
As
incredible
Co.
character in Dusk, I think he really has endeared himself in an authentic way, and so I am really excited. In fact, even though I'm not really interested in playing D&D anymore, I'm really excited to see what they release
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
more people playing tabletop role playing games, I think, is a good thing, and
Mhm.
and it means more people will discover more games, and that's always good. And with Justice kind of being like, okay, I mean, I know he's one of many, right? He's not the only person leading the charge, but I kind of trust at least one of the hands on the wheel, and seeing some of the
Great.
fun stuff that he's pushing with the new box set and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
Draw Steel,
Here's hoping.
it's great. It's not the only game. Yeah. What's up, Will?
I'm I'm really, I guess my like utopian fantasyland dream for the future of D&D is that the resurgence of other alternative RPGs does enough to break the market stranglehold that D&D has, that some of the people who, like shareholders and stuff who are looking at D&D not as a game for people to enjoy, but as a vehicle for money,
Right.
can be convinced to take more chances and step away from that like core D&D formula because they see that there is a market for other
Mm,
things. And even in
interesting.
my utopian fantasy land, I guess I'm being a little cynical but that's
We're still in a
but I'm
capitalist system in your
yes.
in your
So
utopia. Interesting,
Yeah.
curious
well,
utopia.
in my TTRPG realistic utopia,
Yes,
yeah.
very right. Well said. Yeah.
So we did ask you here to bring a because as we always do, we have our set of icebreaker questions, both like make sure the audience gets to know us and now our guests. So the question is, who should we start with?
Yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So my question, this is a pretty simple one. Uh, what were everyone's sort of most prominent or sort of noteworthy characters they played in TTRPGs, either just by length
Hmm.
or just by importance to themselves? It
I
doesn't matter the system or
I
not.
I
It
know
doesn't really matter.
immediately who I want to talk about.
Well, then you go first because I've
Okay.
gotta think about this one.
I suppose it's because I've now run way more games than I've played that my iconic characters have become mythological in my mind. But my very first the very first like time I really played D&D, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, so I made an Eldritch Knight because I was like Gish fantasy, but I little little did I know that that is fraught, and Eldritch Knight, don't come at me in the comments, but Eldritch Knight sucks. Anyway, moving quickly past that, the first character I really was like, I'm gonna sink my teeth into this was a blue dragonborn paladin. But they were an Oathbreaker paladin, but I had it
Ooh.
such that they came from, because they were chromatic, that their family were worshippers of Tiamat. So his name was Uval Thien, and he broke his oath to Tiamat and
Okay.
to worship who he thought was Bahamut.
Oh.
My DM had other plans, because who, of course, and this is, I don't know if you guys know Forgotten Realms lore, and that's fine if you don't, but if you do, who does Tiamat hate?
Baphomet, right?
A lot of people.
Well, you know what? That's actually a correct answer. Yes, a
That's fair.
lot of individuals. I suppose though, like
Uh,
Tiamat is imprisoned
I
in
was yeah.
Avernus,
I
and
was about to say
Oh,
so Tiamat
Asmodeus.
hates Asmodeus,
Asmodeus.
and
Yeah.
so my Oathbreaker paladin unwittingly became a paladin of Asmodeus. He
That's
thought
such
he
Oh,
a
was like resplendent in like mithril armor, and then one day this other dude was like, what are you talking about? Just tapped him on the chest, and his like armor that he thought was beautiful silver plate had a glamour on it, and it shifted and was in fact like burning and cracked and had horns on it. It was like the first big reverse twist that I had ever experienced in a D&D game. And I was like, the magic of tabletop role-playing games is real. Oh my God. And I was super in. I loved it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was awesome. Shout out to Brian Rice, first real dungeon master. Yeah, so
Awesome.
that's who I'm thinking of.
All right. Well, I feel like
Absolutely red.
mine's a much less serious story. Um, I don't know
It,
if it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say your character reminds me of Joe Manganiello, or is that how you say his
Yes,
name?
yeah.
His
Archon,
character,
Archon the Cruel.
I still I still think it's hilarious that he somehow managed to get his character into official canon.
So good.
His home game character as like a major figure in one of the the written like adventures.
Agreed. Yeah, I definitely
It's so
saw
funny.
Archon and I was like, that's cool. But I wanted to do
Yeah.
like a flip on that. Be like, no. I don't worship Tiamat. Tiamat's evil. Little did I know.
Yeah.
Right. So mine is probably. This isn't the character I played for the longest. That belongs to a second edition Elven Wizard I played.
Mm.
But probably the most prominent, at least among my regular Sunday gaming group, is in Pathfinder First Edition. We were running through the Giant Slayer adventure path, which is a really fun adventure path. And I was playing. This was like my fourth or fifth character because one fact anyone who plays games with me will know is that I never get super attached to my characters. I'm always into the story that they're telling, but if I come to the table and assume that my character might die,
Mm-hmm.
just as a matter of course. So that does occasionally lead me to be a little more blasé with them than I should be. So I was on my fourth or fifth character, and I was playing a changeling druid. And changelings in Pathfinder are the abandoned daughters of hags
Ooh.
who who can eventually turn into hags, but that's not really the route I was going. So we are besieging this fire giant fortress that's built into a volcano, and we're like trying to sneak into it, and we find this pen full of goats. And I can turn into a goat. I'm a druid, so I turn into a goat to like do some reconnaissance. I'm staying in there, and eventually I decide that I need to free these goats from their captivity.
Naturally.
So I kind of strong armed the rest of the party into helping me free these goats. They're like, we've got more important things to do. And I was like, okay, then you can do them without a druid. I was like, sorry. Uh, and I don't remember if I said it or if somebody else made the joke, but my character got called Goat Moses. I don't remember who said it, but every now and again I will go to do something and somebody will say, "We don't need another Goat Moses," and
We
I'm
all
like,
need
"Come
to
on,
go
guys."
Moses in our lives. Come on.
Yeah,
That's great.
because you know, obviously the Moses parallel being that she led these goats away from persecution and into the promised land,
Well done.
which was our halfling witch teleporting them all to somewhere nice and safe, far away from the fire giants.
Hmm.
Which, now that I think about it, given the limitations of the teleport spell, that must have derailed the in-game time for at least a couple weeks of teleporting goats.
Lovely.
Awesome. So my sort of most noteworthy character is I was in a 5 year long D&D campaign where we got from level 1 to 20. So
Wow.
that was great. It only ended very recently actually. And my character for that was Callie Tosscobble, a halfling inquisitive rogue. So most of my characters are actually I often my characters have a lot of self motivation. Like they have plans, they try to like accomplish these things. So with Callie, I basically created a grassroots militia, and basically in a D&D game, basically was playing an RTS, and it was I don't know, it's very fun. Again, this is my first time ever going from level 1 to 20, so it was such a it was such a cool experience to do that, and so that it always has a special place in my heart for that reason.
That is one
Yeah.
of my great pieces of jealousy towards you, Jacob, is I have never played, despite playing TTRPGs for I think over twice as long as you have, I have never played level 1 to 20 in a D&D game.
Me neither.
Yeah, I have my achievement.
That's a
Yeah,
huge and I think very rare achievement. Yeah.
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 How
To
long
be
did
fair, it
that
was two
take?
different characters.
Did it take 5 years?
5 years,
Yeah,
like 5 or 6 years.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And I originally started with a fighter, human fighter, who ended up turning evil and becoming one of the big bad evil guys.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
I do
Uh,
love that.
yeah.
That
And I came back with my second character, who became my one I ended with.
That's one of the things my high school friends learned is if we are playing in a tabletop RPG, you can never, ever, ever let me be in charge of like a paramilitary group. Because if we are playing like a paramilitary group and I am in charge, I will inevitably turn into a bad guy. Like every time, and it was always under very different circumstances, but every single time they were like, okay, yeah, you can be like the commander of this. And I was like, okay. And then I turned evil. And I was just like, guys, you got to stop doing this.
That's the great fun
Incredible.
of RPGs, though, is having characters that turn evil.
That's right.
It's so much fun, right? Awesome.
Well, that
So who
kind
wants
of
to?
is a segue into my question, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
So my icebreaker question is, when you find yourself building your PCs, is there a category that they generally fall into and why? So, like, it sounds like, Will, that, you might have your characters fall into the instigator category or the voice of reason. There's so many different categories that we could list off. But, is it that you kind of end up playing de facto the same category every time, regardless of your class and ancestry combo? Or do you try really each time to be a completely different character? And then perhaps despite your best efforts, do you fall back into that same method and mode of role play?
That's a great question. I personally usually fall into one of two categories. My characters are either very passive, um, and that's usually a reaction I have because I realize most of my characters are very kind of instigators, like you were talking about, very much doing things, and I can kind of take up a lot of space at the table. And if I realize I've been playing a character or characters like that for a while, I try to like my next character, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a back seat because I've been very prominent. And the other sort of category my characters fall into, which is less kind of a fictional archetype category and more just I play elven magic users a lot. I don't have any specific reasons why. I like elves and I like throwing spells. So like I'll sit down to make a
Who
character
doesn't?
and
Who
like
doesn't?
about about halfway through I'll be like, I think this character would be more fun if they were an elf. And the and then they're an elf and that's just how it goes.
What about you, Jacob?
For me, so when I make a character, beyond wanting a character has like a lot of like motivation, because again, I think that's where I find the fun
Hmm.
in being a player is having self motivated goals. Because who doesn't love that, right? A lot of my characters are very human. I usually am not one to play the very like weird ancestries.
Hmm.
I usually play humans or halflings or these very other sort of like common
Mm-hmm.
ancestries, and I like sort of focusing on these human struggles, like in character. Like I have a character that's like basically their whole thing is about learning about their legacy, right? An idea of legacy. And I have another one like my first character in my 5 year campaign. Their whole character was about being in a war and like having like to deal with them being on the wrong side of it, right? And like again, I like these very human concepts in playing these very sort of human characters.
Hmm.
Which is strange for a fantasy game,
Right.
right?
Well, it's
But
you're bringing very grounded elements into a fantasy setting,
yeah,
which that's where the drama is.
I'm a big fan of ground elements.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm playing a character in Will's game currently, Chronicles of Darkness, and they are very tied into like religious trauma, and I did this very sort of religious character who kind of had to like sort of faith tested. Right? I just like these characters that, like again are very human and then can like whose stories sort of resonate even beyond sort of the genre of fantasy.
Hmm.
Yeah, even your Vampire the Masquerade character you ran in my game was definitely the most grounded of the vampires in that coterie.
I love that. Uh, I find myself, I think, a little bit of a fusion, uh, where I definitely am the person more often than not at the table. If there's a big red button, I'm going to push it.
Yeah.
And
Nope.
and that I think comes from an assumption, an assumptive place that like if the DM put the button there, they want us to push it.
Hmm.
But I've
Right.
learned the hard way that's not always true. There was a
Yeah.
time my good friend Eric running a D&D campaign, we somehow went into this like for lack of a better term, the ethereal plane, but in the distance we saw these beautiful pools of rainbow color. Uh, and I was like, well, I'm going to go check them out. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And long story short, I totally derailed the campaign because I went into one of the pools and yeah, we ended up going to a completely different plane of existence and
Nice.
but that's not my fault. That's his fault. He put these
Right. He put the
beautiful
pools
rainbow
there.
colored he put the pools in the game. Thank you, Will. Yes. So uh, yeah, and I like what you said too, Will, about like if you feel like you're taking up too much space at the table, right? Because I don't want to be spotlight. I want to be one of a party. Even though I find myself being an instigator, I will try to like ensure that it's not how I'm always playing that particular character, or indeed be like, okay, next character is going to be like very. I don't ever think I can be a passive player, but at least not as instigatory. Yeah, if that's even a word. It is now. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I love those answers, the grounded elements that you put in, Jake. And I've met other players. I have a number of players in my game who are like, I'm always going to be a human because that's the most interesting thing to me. And then I think when I build my characters, I think I'm more like you will in that sense of this could be better if they were an elf. Yeah, because I find myself like definitely it's the escape. It's like I don't want to be a human. Please, can I be an elf
Fair. Yeah.
for real? Like, can I just be a tree? That'd be fun.
I do sometimes war with myself though because I'm not like really like a full power gamer, but that's definitely kind of because I started playing D&D with my family, and a lot of my family do trend more towards that. So that's kind of how I was
Mm-hmm.
raised with
Mm-hmm.
D&D. And so in games like Pathfinder First Edition, I'm like, oh, I want to play an elf, and I'm like, human gets a extra feat at first
Right.
level though.
Okay, so I know we moved on from Draw Steel, but that's why I love Draw Steel too, is because you
Yeah.
have these a la carte options for your ancestry, where it's not like, hey, here is a mold that you have to choose. And I was very pleased when they finally removed the specific ability score traits for lineages in 5e, where it's like, okay, your bonus to agility no longer comes directly from your ancestry choice. um,
Right.
so I really enjoyed that, where it's like, hey, I've wanted to be an orc wizard this whole time, but I too, I can't not choose an optimal combination. So it's like my fantasy choices, my role play choices are being unintentionally perhaps limited. So yeah, I really love those new combinations that exist
Yeah.
because of that more broad freedom. So yeah.
One day I will play something other than a Dragon Knight in Draw Steel, and I'll get to see what the other
Well, I'd
the
love.
other ancestries
So
have.
that was going to be my question. Like, have you played an elven elementalist?
No, I have not. I've only played a Dragon Knight because the only thing that rivals my love for elves is dragons.
Nice.
And I have always been enchanted by the Dragon Knights that Matt describes.
Mm-hmm.
I even, I guess in our last Draw Steel episode, I did my best impression of the kind of cadence and voice they speak
That's
in.
right. That's how you guys
And
opened the episode, with the oath.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was
and
me. I was like, let me just put it here. I think it'd be
I
really,
think that was a
it'd
great
be really fit.
choice. It was super compelling.
yeah. So, and I love that oath ability. Every time I look at Draw Steel and look at building a character, I have to talk myself out of not just getting that oath ability
Mm-hmm.
every time because
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't even know if it's that strong of an ability, but it's just so, I don't know, there's something so pleasing to me about having to like say the oath and like work that into what's
Mhm.
happening. I just love
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's unique amongst all abilities in that it forces you to say something out loud at the table,
Right.
right? And I'm sure there are directors who are like, you don't need to say it every time, dude. It's fine. Um, but in terms of power and balance, it's not necessarily more powerful or less powerful than the other combo abilities. So
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
I think
yeah, yep, Jacob, please go ahead.
you probably heard the story like that we had in the previous episode, but the one time Will used that ability, it was such a dramatic moment, and it actually mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was resisting sort of the goblin, I think, curse bitter's effect,
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
and I don't know, it was just so cool, like to see in action. In a game that is targeted as cinematic, it can make such cinematic moments. I think deserves. I don't know. It just fits so
It
well.
does.
It does.
Now, Jacob, you say that you always choose humans. Do you find yourself specifically, maybe not necessarily always, but often, more often, do you find yourself also choosing very grounded classes as well? So, like thinking, because you mentioned you played a fighter in that 5e game, although they eventually turned into the one of the villains, or if not the villain. Do you find yourself
Yeah.
also choosing the more grounded classes in addition to choosing humans and halflings, like adjacent to human folk?
It it really depends.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of my human characters was a warlock because their whole thing of like they
Nice.
were a warlock of the undying because they didn't like when they didn't want to worry about the legacy.
Oh,
They
okay.
want to be there to tell their legacy, not in like I guess it depends on what thematic
Mm-hmm.
like themes you're trying to create. Like I made a draw steel character who my only character I've really played so far is a human, who is like a talent, which is one of the weirder classes.
Yeah, for sure.
But their whole thing is like they're from Capital. They had a whole adventuring career. Then they basically retired. They had a kid. They moved to Vazoria, right, to have like a sort of a little more like a calm life.
Mm-hmm.
Until now, their child's in school in Capital, and now like they have nothing to do now,
Empty
and
nesters.
so they have to
So
kind of like rediscover what it means to be a hero,
nice.
right? And what like and again, yeah, Millie's themes, right? Because those two characters who are human aren't really the common class.
Right.
Yeah, I guess the main answer is themes.
Cool. I
That's
like
what
that.
matters, I think, most from that.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, I guess
So,
it's
Will, I think you're the last
my
one who,
icebreaker, right?
yeah.
So, my question,
Also, by the way, that was a really good icebreaker question, by the way.
Thank you.
yeah, that was great. Is do you all have I struggled a lot with how to word this, and the best I came up with is, do you have a system that's the one that got away? Like a system you've always wanted to run or play in, but for one reason or another, it's just never worked out. Maybe there's some fatal flaw with the system. Maybe you just can't convince anyone else that this system is worth playing.
Hmm. That's a really interesting question, and the answer is yes. Uh, and I think for me, um, well, first to specifically answer your question, yes, and the systems are Starfinder and Cyberpunk. I guess Cyberpunk
Mhm.
Red. And that's because there's that really niche, specific sci-fi fantasy of I'm a hacker, I'm hacking into a system, and me as either a GM or a player, I want robust mechanics for that hacking system. I don't want
Right.
it to just be, um, I mean, let me not disparage systems that are a little bit more simplified. So, for example, what's coming to mind as well as Mothership, where if I have the like hacking and computers specialization, whatever, like I can make a hacking check, but that's all it is, just a die roll, right? And that's
Right.
cool,
Just
that's
roll a
fun.
die.
It's a little hand wavy and whatever. That's Kitty. Sorry, we're pausing for Kitty. Hello.
Hello, I don't know. Oh God, what did you do to my desktop, cat?
Oh. Good job, cat. Chaos. Let chaos reign.
Come on. recording still going.
Okay, so sorry, back to sci-fi. Uh, so I think that's fine. Hand wave, all good. I can still feel special because those choices mattered. I chose to have proficiency in those skills. But what I really love about at least the promise of Starfinder and the promise of Cyberpunk is these crunchy, that's right, how the parlance that we often use for systematized mechanics, or detailed systematized mechanics, like there are subsystems for hacking.
Yeah.
But that can be a large deterrent because it makes the game so complicated. Uh,
Yeah.
Incredibly complicated to learn, incredibly complicated and difficult to run, and getting people to agree to say, yes, not only will I show up at your game several times in a month, once a week, etc., but I've got to learn all these mechanics, and I, as the GM, have to learn these mechanics to be an arbiter of the rules, at least to a certain degree. Yeah, I found it was, yeah, and Starfinder was the game that kind of got away in the sense that, like, we thought it had great promise, and it ultimately, at least for us, not saying this is the case for everybody, but for us, it failed to really scratch that sci-fi itch. So
It's fair.
that's my answer.
I ran a short-lived, I guess 3-4 week Starfinder campaign,
Mm-hmm.
which planned to be a larger campaign, right? But I think I was in the same boat where parts of that system were so detailed
Yeah.
and so weird that eventually I was like, I can't run this.
Hmm.
Like it if I have to do this work for every computer in a sci-fi RPG,
Right.
it felt like there was like I would spend like points or for like these
Yeah.
subsystems and like I was like, I can't run this. I was like, and I was like, listen, I love the setting, right? Maybe with some other system I could run the same sort of
Yeah.
campaign, but I guess could not with Starfinder. Do you know if 2E any better? Have you looked
I
at
have,
all into it?
Have
I have
not
no
looked
idea.
at it, and
I I know it's
so
based on the same base system as Pathfinder 2E,
yeah,
which I'm moderately familiar with, but I haven't looked at. I never got into first edition Starfinder, so
yeah,
I didn't really bother looking at second edition.
yeah. I will say that some of the hacking systems, like in Cyberpunk, really stuck with me. I loved the fantasy where it's like there are
Right.
these black ice programs and super cool stuff, which were explored in the video game. If you guys have played Cyberpunk 2077 at all, um,
I have not.
but the hacking mechanic
A little
also
bit.
was kind of simplified in the video game too. But what I did is I just kit bashed. I scavenged components of that hacking system from Cyberpunk and threw them into my Cypher system game,
There you go.
which
Yeah,
was fun. So, what
nice.
about you
I
guys?
just started using the Saber system actually.
Oh,
I've been running
oh,
Old
really?
Gods of Appalachia,
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah,
and that's I think Saber system.
I think the only cipher system I've played was a Old Gods of Appalachia.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running that in person.
Oh, fun.
First in person game I've ran in like forever, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
My first time with Cypher, and it's at first I had trouble. I was like, no, this is pretty easy. Like it's like ranks and like you can decrease
Yeah.
and limit the ranks and thus what do you typically run in Cypher?
What I run in Cypher is a sci fantasy. So
Hmm.
like I have a homebrew world, and there are different like fantastical timeline offshoots from like the core, the canon of the world, and like the solar punk future is Cypher.
Nice.
And so
Okay.
there's this massive like solar punk city with towers of glass, but they're like interwoven with like trees and stuff, and there's this network. Uh, yeah, I've had a lot of fun designing that world, and so Cypher System is what I run in that one. Yeah,
The opposite.
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's broad enough that
Um,
an individual can come into that system and be like, I'm an elf and I'm a magic user, but another individual can be like, I have cybernetic implants and I connect, like into the network and read the
Yeah.
currents and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Nice. I guess my answer to to my question is similar to both of yours as Shadowrun.
oh yeah, okay.
I personally love Shadowrun. I've been in one game that lasted a single session.
Wow.
and I've never convinced anyone else to like sit down and play it. And part of one of the big reasons is that it is an extremely complex game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of the biggest weaknesses of the game that's really hard to reconcile, because I think it's also where a lot of the flavor from the game comes from, is if you're not familiar with Shadowrun, it's got basically three realities that you can interact with, but it is very hard to make a character who interacts with more than two of them. Because there's the
Interesting.
actual physical real world. Shadowrun is similar to Cyberpunk, but has, magic and elves and everything. So there's like a mystical, like astral plane
Mm-hmm.
that you can interact with. And then there's like the world of tech that, similar to Cyberpunk, has very, there are very gritty rules for how that works. And it is essentially similar to the astral plane, but all tech based. So if you're playing like a wizard or something, you can interact with the physical world and the astral world, but you're probably not doing much with the tech world.
Mm-hmm.
You can build like I think they call them deckers, which are their hackers, and then you're interacting with the physical world and the cyber world, but you're probably doing nothing on the astral plane.
Right.
Or if you build just like a regular like mercenary, you're probably barely interacting with the astral or technological world, and only interacting with the physical world, which means that you can have these long portions of sessions where like only one character is doing anything, because like the hacker is just interacting with the hacking and everyone else is like, okay, I can't see or interact with that world in any way. But I love Shadowrun. And one of the things I love about Shadowrun is that it is loosely sort of connected to Earth Dawn. At least in earlier editions, they both were connected in that Earth Dawn was like a prehistory of the modern world, and then Shadowrun is obviously taking place slightly forward into the future. Uh, and I always thought that was really cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can't convince anyone to play Shadowrun with me, which has led me to a similar solution to yours, in that I have a homebrew fantasy world that I have been slowly considering. Okay, what would this world look like in 4,000 years in the future
Mm-hmm.
from its modern day, which is thousands of years in our past? What would a cyberpunk version of this world look like? And I've
Mm-hmm.
been trying to figure out what system to use. And my current thought has been to use the Fate system,
Oh,
just
cool.
because I like light systems, and I've had good experiences running Cyberpunk and playing in Cyberpunk games
Hmm.
with Fate. So
Excellent.
Awesome. And with all our icebreaker questions out in the open, I figure now we should get into the main sort of showing, that being the prompts.
So I have, just in case, I have two
Okay.
prompts because just in case one is too specific. Um,
Okay.
so first prompt, the one that
Well,
that I really,
just
go ahead, please.
just to give
Oh
context,
yeah.
you'll be rolling a d6,
Oh,
and
I
one to three. Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry. Continue. I've got my D6. I'm ready to roll.
Yep. 1 to 3, the prompt will go to me. Four to
no,
four to
other way.
six will go to Will. Other way. It's on the paper.
Oh, I rolled a 1.
All right, so that's
That
me.
means Will will get this prompt
Will.
first.
I'm going to go with this one. Yeah, I think this makes sense because you talked about you played a Dragon Knight. And this prompt has to do with dragons.
Okay.
Specifically, your prompt, should you choose to accept it, would be to design treasures essentially around okay, sorry, let me start broad. The theme is harvested parts of dragons.
Okay.
Whether that is flesh, whether that is scales, teeth, but going a little bit more, shall we say, like organ specific too. Uh, what about dragon feathers? Do dragons have livers? We know from the classic '90s film that dragons have hearts. Those are very powerful as well. But what about a dragon's stomach? What about a dragon eye? Uh, what about perhaps even uh, do dragons have marrow in their bones? Do dragons, if they have feathers, I don't know if either of you have ever read any Madeline L'Engle, but there's a novel called The Wind in the Door, and one of the way they know immediately that they're looking at dragon feathers as opposed to, or that they're looking at feathers that aren't from bird, is because they look in the center of the quill, which should be hollow in a bird. It's called the calamus, but in the
Hmm.
dragon, it's like totally full with like this beautiful like metallic substance. Um,
Ooh.
so that is the prompt.
Okay. Okay.
To design something or something having to do with the harvested parts of a dragon. But what I would love to see specifically is something that goes a little bit beyond the normal when we think of harvesting a
Right. Not
dragon.
just scales and teeth and claws.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I can work with that. That's great. I love that.
Excellent.
It's a really good one.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be for draw steel, I guess, but it could be. Um,
I can make something for draw steel.
and if we're thinking draw
Yeah.
steel, then it could be a leveled treasure. It could be a trinket. There could be a title associated with the harvesting of these specific dragon parts. There could be a
Yeah.
complication, so on and so forth.
I can totally see a monster, like some sort of like homunculus of
Oh,
That'd be cool.
oh
Dragon
my
parts.
God, yes. Kind of like a war
Yeah.
dog dragon, like where it's just
Yeah, right.
Oh, or even like
could
an
also
animate dragon stomach. Gross.
Hmm.
right.
I
That's
could
what I was thinking. I
also
think it'd be cool.
I could see something similar to, I don't remember what they were called, but there was a monster in 5E's Fizzband's Treasury of Dragons
Hmm.
that was like, this is what happens to somebody if they start like harvesting dragon parts and like implanting them in
Whoa,
themselves to like try to steal draconic power.
whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a shame most of that book was really bad because some
Yeah.
parts of that book are actually really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, yeah. I remember that book.
Great
Bad.
potential. Okay, there's my
Yeah,
prompt.
that's a really good prompt.
Thank you.
That's a
Yeah,
really
I'm-
good prompt.
I'm excited to
I'm
see
really
what you come up
excited
with
about
that,
that
Will.
one.
Now going in a circle. Will, do you want to give me about your prompt?
Yeah, my prompt is much less specific because I like to make your job hard, Jacob.
Okay.
My prompt for you is unfortunately going to be a little similar to your last one. My prompt for you is waning,
Waning.
as in the opposite of
Like-
waxing.
Like W-A. Okay. Interesting. Waning.
Yeah,
very general.
Waning.
Yeah. For those unaware, my previous prompt was werewolf. So,
Well, no,
waning.
I was meaning similar to your previous draw steel prompt, which was the last light
Oh.
of a dying god.
Well, also, it is like waning like the moon of like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
werewolf. That's what
I
I was
guess
trying to
it's
think of.
similar to both of your last prompts.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here, Will.
Waning. Okay, so I could do like maybe some items related to like moon, right?
Yeah,
I
you
could
could.
like maybe some the moon, or I could
Waning power.
waning power. Yeah, like having like something like being diminished.
Mm.
There's a lot that can be done with that. It's very very general and gives me a lot of freedom
Yeah.
to do it. I'll have to think about what I'm gonna do with that.
Alright.
Yeah, waning. I'm excited. I wrote that down.
And I guess that means Paul gets your prompt, Jacob. What do you got?
Ah,
What is your prompt, Jacob?
okay. So Paul, if I may ask you,
Please.
So there's two versions of this prompt. One, if you know a bit about this. Another, if you don't.
Okay.
Are you much aware about Arthurian legend?
I love Arthurian legend. Okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
Oh.
I have a degree in literature, and my de facto focus was Arthurian literature.
That's hilarious. Because
Perfect.
my prompt is Arthurian legend.
Incredible.
So go wild.
Oh my
Go
gosh.
wild.
Okay, so I'll reveal my other prompt. My other prompt was the Sword of Legend, aka like
was it?
Excalibur coded.
Excalibur, yeah.
Yeah.
But not just Excalibur, right? Like any
Right.
any sort of the legendary blade. So okay, so my prompt is just Arthurian legend.
Yes, some Arthurian legend in Draw Steel. I'm curious what you could sort of
Oh my gosh, I love
yeah.
that.
I'm curious what you can make, because I think I don't know. Yeah, Arthurian legend is very heroic, right? I think it fits very well
Absolutely.
with
But also,
with
so
Drustiel, I
those
think,
all those knights are so deeply flawed too,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
very to your you know, the question to your answer to my question, you know, like so, very grounded, right? Their
hmm
flaws are so human,
Hmm.
despite the fact that they're like, I'm gonna go get literally like the Grail, um, even though it's not literally the Grail, right? Or even though their literal quest for the Grail is very philosophical. Um,
Right.
yes,
just kind of riffing off that. Do you guys watch Quinn's Quest at all? Or
yep,
so
I do some.
I do not.
okay, so and that's okay if you don't. But his recent review was of Mythic Bastion Land, which is a very there are very few, in my opinion, TTRPGs that bring forth the flavor of Arthurian knight,
hmm
questing, heroic fantasy, and Mythic Bastion Land is one of them. Pendragon is probably the most famous one.
Yeah. Hmm.
But Mythic Bastion Land is really really cool. Um, so if you're at all interested in Arthurian myth as it relates to TTRPGs, Mythic Bastion Land is even just if you never read it, if you never play it and just read it, it's so evocative and beautiful.
I don't know if you saw this. Were you were with Drostu when originally like was first kickstarted, right?
Yeah, yes,
Paul?
yeah, very much so.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. And do you remember there was an RPG that came out around that time that sort of Kickstarter released? And at the time, a lot of people were saying that the RPG should be called the Inevitable
Oh yes, the inevitable
MMCM RPG.
MCMDM RPG. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and then someone made an RPG around that time called Inevitable,
Oh no
and
way.
it's no a doomed Arthurian Western RPG. Arthurian like Spacey's like using these Arthurian knight sort of like ideals in like a Western setting.
That's really
Oh, that's really
interesting.
Uh,
fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Inevitable,
yeah,
a doomed Arthurian Western RPG. Oh, Soul Muppet. Oh yeah, I know them.
I'm
That's cool. Yeah, I'm
yep.
I'm really curious about that,
Uh,
like that intersection between Arthurian legend and myth and the like gunslinger trope. Of course, I don't know if you guys have read like Stephen King and the Dark Tower series at all, but like
I
it's
have. Hmm.
so it's very like Arthur, or
Yeah.
Roland, right, of Gilead is like
Hmm.
a knight, the last knight of the Round Table, pretty much, and it's like this. I don't know who thought of that first, but good job.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think I've only read the first book of that series, which I remember having difficulty getting through,
You know, if there's
but
only
I
one
enjoyed it
book that
quite a
you read
bit.
from that series, that's a pretty good one.
That's fair. I remember the problem I had is I was reading through it, and there's semi early on in the book, there's a bit where it flashes back to stuff that happened before the book.
Yes.
But it is such a long flashback, but
Yep.
that by the time I got to the end of it, I had forgotten
You
that it was a
forgot. Yep.
flashback,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was a little bit of
My
whiplash.
but my main connection with the Dark Tower, which is a weird connection, right? I read one of his books called The Eye of the Dragon,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty standard fantasy novel,
Right.
right? Keep in mind, I don't really read much other works of his. And the main bad guy of that is a sort of a almost like a vizier s like Aladdin,
Mm-hmm.
uh, named Randall Flagg.
That's right.
And it's only afterwards I learned, wait a minute, this is like the bad guy, like the same
He shows
character
up a lot.
as in all these other
Yeah.
books, which is really
Yeah. King
strange.
likes to do that. He likes to connect,
Yeah,
his
Hmm.
universe. Yeah, because Randall Flagg is like the same guy as
yeah,
essentially the same villain as who's in The Stand, and then
Hmm.
yeah,
he's one of the villains in the Dark Tower. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Arthurian legend, fantastic.
yeah.
Do you have any requests? Like, would you like to see anything specific?
I I think there's so much room,
There
and
really is.
knowing that you're so into the Arthurian legend, I think I'm excited to see what you come up with. It
Cool.
could be obscure. It could be like you could do like monsters from the Arthurian legend. You could do like mythic items. You could do titles. It'd be a lot of fun. You could do backgrounds even.
Mm-hmm.
You could do a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot of stuff with that. I think just giving you the title, giving you the prompt, and like just
Boy,
letting you off to do what you want to do. I think we'll get something very fruitful.
fantastic.
I, I do have a question for you, which is what is your favorite part of Arthurian canon?
My favorite part? Oh,
Hmm.
interesting. Gosh, that's a hard question because there's so many various layers of Arthurian
Yeah.
canon that I think are quite interesting. Because on one hand, like I think for an individual who hasn't read many of the stories, when you think Arthurian legend, you think of withdrawing Excalibur from the
Right.
stone, right? Like the
hmm
chosen hero, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no question like this is the hero that's chosen by God or, whomever, whatever, the power in the world. And it's their job to, be the savior. But I also love the super weird stuff like with Merlin and
Oh yeah.
like this it's like strange. uh there's maybe a little bit of like who's the mom and dad, like for yeah, it's just weird. And then like things are going back in time as well, and I love those layers of it. um I guess the other thing, so like if you think about Arthurian myth, and compare it to like Norse myth or Greek myth, Greek myth is very accessible. It's very linear,
Yeah.
and it really informs a lot of our um, stories today that exist in fantasy, where it's like, okay, the gods act in a maybe a little bit of a childish way, but they act in a human way.
Right.
Right? Their motivations are logical, even if they're childish. I would argue. If you
Hmm.
look at Norse myth, the motivations are inane. They're inhuman. They're unhuman. They are difficult to parse, and the like logic doesn't necessarily apply to the sequence of events. Like there was a cow and he licked this salt thing, and now there's people. Um, it's like what? Okay, cool. That there's no logic there necessarily, or if there is very obfuscated. In Arthurian myth and legend, it's like even more human. So these, and I suppose it's all about like tragedy, or at least I think of a lot of tragedy with it, like with the main characters being beleaguered or ill or betrayed. Um, so I think I like that a lot about it. Yeah, that there's a lot of betrayal. Yeah,
That's fair.
it's dramatic.
Yeah.
That's fair. I've always been a huge fan. I'm obviously not as studied as yourself in Arthurian legend, but I've always been a huge fan, and because I'm a really big history guy, one of my favorite things about Arthurian canon is looking at it from the less from a literary perspective and more of a perspective of like what's the history of these legends. So I love
Cool.
things like the inclusion of Lancelot showing French influence on the
Yeah.
British Isles
Yes.
and how the ideas of chivalric tradition in France mesh into this very British legend. And my favorite piece of it, like self-contained piece, is probably the poem of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. There's something about it's just like it's a deeply weird
It's so
story,
weird.
and I think that's one of the things that makes me like it so much.
Yes. It's strange. I do also love it. Yeah, so it's interesting, like, right? Like I think about Arthurian legend as being an inherently British tale, but
Mhm.
my biggest like literary introduction to Arthurian story is through a French author,
Oh, really?
Chrétien de Troyes. I'm not French, pardon my terrible pronunciation, but yeah, he was a,
That's
a
okay.
French poet. Um, so it's all weird, and with France and England back then, right, they're very connected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, not to make this a full like literature podcast, I'm very excited to design for Draw Steel TTRPG something related to Arthurian legend. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
All right. Well, I guess with all
Awesome.
the prompts disseminated, it's time for our break. And when we come back, we will have, um, hopefully, some fun and interesting Draw Steel products.
Yes, we will.
Awesome.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It has been a week, and we have all made some wonderful projects for everyone. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm really excited to see what we have made as our first time having a guest on.
Woohoo!
And
It's gonna be exciting.
Yep. And welcome back, of course, to our wonderful guest, Paul, also known as Heart of Arcana. How you doing?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a wonderful week. Worth mentioning, I think, that in the lost time between last week and now, Draw Steel has officially released.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been really exciting.
I actually,
I've been eyes peeled.
yeah, I actually had to debate whether or not I was going to design based on the last backer kit or if I was actually going to try to sit down and read through everything.
Um,
Because the last backer kit's supposed to be feature complete, but I was like, oh, I don't know now.
no, but
I
you're
sh
right. Yeah, they
Yeah,
totally changed a few things
yeah,
in between
Yeah.
things.
yeah. I've been keeping an eye
Mm.
out on all like the discussions of Draw Steel online,
Mm,
and it's been an experience. Let's just say.
indeed, indeed, it has.
Yeah, yeah. You've been on Blue Sky, correct, Paul?
I sure have.
Yeah,
Some bewildering takes. But
there has been.
I've tried not to pay attention to that noise and just be like, haters gonna hate. Um,
Yeah.
but it gives me, I will say this, and we can talk about this too, of, in adjacent or parallel to our design conversation that's about to occur, is that from the very beginning, they were like, we're making a product that's very specific, and so that means there's going to be strong reactions, and that's I think that's a good thing. That some people are like, I hate this. It's like good. That
Yeah.
means the inverse is true too. Like it's not oatmeal, dude.
I think that's the smartest thing that MCM did in
Yeah,
creating this RPG was being so clear about what it is and being clear that not everyone will love it, which I think is the opposite of what I think Wizard of the Coast does with D&D.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely it's basically the exact opposite marketing tact where Wizards has, especially in recent times, been trying to say, well, you can do anything with D&D.
mm-hmm,
Everyone will like D&D. It works for everything. Yeah, MCDM was definitely like, look, this game is very specific things, and some people aren't going to like those things.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to have it. So we are now have each our individual set of projects complete as they will be, as close as they will be at least. So I guess the first person to give it out there, like sort of the first person to reveal their project to us is Paul, who I believe I gave the prompt Arthurian Legend.
That is right. The Arthurian legend prompt. It was a lot of fun this last week to revisit uh, some Arthurian texts that it's been a long time, like 15-ish years since I had read them. Yeah, it was great. I really appreciate this prompt. It was a lot of fun, and I have designed a few different things for Draw Steel, of course. So the first thing, and I'll just kind
Uh,
of, oh, please go ahead.
oh, sorry, about to say, did you want to link it into the
Oh yeah,
chat?
sure. Yes. I will share the
Awesome.
link, throw it in the chat. Um, doing that right now. There it is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, feel free to read along. So the first thing, okay, a little bit of background here. In Draw Steel, maybe this is good for your listeners too, because we're not necessarily presuming that everybody knows from top to bottom, from tip to tail, all the different features of Draw Steel. But I designed first a title, and a title, unlike a complication, is not necessarily an optional rule. Like complications are optional rules when building characters. Titles are things that you earn. There are very specific criteria by which heroes can earn titles. And similar to treasures, they are broken down into different echelons. And there's 4 echelons in Draw Steel: levels 1, 2, and 3, echelon 1, levels 4, 5, and 6, echelon 2, levels 7, 8, and 9, echelon 3, and level 10, echelon 4. So this is, I think, kind of maybe an echelon 3 title. I was reviewing and studying the different titles of different echelons, and it seems as though I think this is going to fall into a 3rd echelon. Caveat: this has not been play tested, so who knows if it's overpowered or if it's too weak or just bad. But when I was thinking about like what symbolizes to me, what are like the core elemental things that symbolize Arthurian legend, and of course, inevitably, Excalibur. And specifically that moment of the discovery of the blade or the receiving of the blade from the Lady of the Lake. Sometimes her name is Nimue. I might be pronouncing that wrong. But that moment of the discovery of the blade. So I figured this could be kind of fun. The prereq for this title, which is called Chosen by the Blade, is that you discover a long forgotten blade of legend at the bottom of a lake. And then directors can mess with that, right? Like whatever, like that. Yeah. That's a starting point, but feel free to mess with that. And then of course, if you choose one of the 3 benefits. They're not always 3, by the way. Some of the third echelon titles had like 6 or 7 different benefits that you could choose from.
I missed that.
And some of them were just like there's just one benefit. Like one of them grants you the use of a kit. Anyway, so in doing some research and reading, the gifts that Excalibur bestows on its wielder, whether it's Lancelot or Arthur, one of them, it's like this great prowess in battle. So I thought, okay, that would be kind of cool that you're just completely immune to the prone condition while you're holding the blade. That's the true stance. The other one that it's called True Treasure. This is the second one, and that's because there's this line that Merlin is like kind of chastising Arthur. I forget which text it might be in. Anyway, I'm not gonna get it right, so I'm not even gonna try. But anyway, there's this line where Merlin's chastising Arthur for thinking that the blade is the treasure, but that in fact it's the scabbard that is the true treasure, because the scabbard has all these like healing properties. And so my idea was, okay, True Treasure is the name of the effect, and while you're in a violent encounter, aka initiative, and the blade is unsheathed from its scabbard, you gain damage immunity 7. So it's like, okay, you're here, the true treasure is this scabbard. You're like holding the scabbard and the blade, perhaps in this fantasy, and you have some beefy damage immunity.
It's very beefy.
Very beefy.
Yeah.
Now, again, like prone condition immunity is not necessarily as good as damage immunity. So yeah, again, like highlighting the asterisk caveat, not tested.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Right. And then Strike True, thinking this is the final effect that like, okay, this blade is blessed. An individual who's wielding it is chosen. They have to be worthy. And so Strike True, after you spend a recovery, your melee strikes gain an edge and deal an additional 5 holy damage until the start of your next turn. So that it's not like an end of turn effect. It's not a save ends kind of thing. And I specifically wanted to put it that it's you gain an edge on your melee strikes and deal an additional 5, or that all your melee strikes gain an edge and deal an additional 5 holy damage till the start of your next turn, in case there could be like triggered actions where, say, you're in combat with a tactician and they use strike now or something like that, and you get the opportunity to make another melee strike, you still have the benefit of this effect. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, please.
Oh, you go on.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I was just gonna say that's it.
I'm a big fan of a lot of these sub-abilities for this title. Like, I like that they have true stance. Like, with this blade, you will not bow.
Right.
Sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And again, they all just seem super cinematic, if that makes sense. Like, again, it's as is with the game, right? Very cinematic, and it just, I think you've achieved that well. That sort of vibe that I think that sword gives off in fiction.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you either of you know? Because I haven't looked through the titles much. Do any of the titles have special rules about like losing a title?
Oh, that's interesting. That is a fantastic question. And I think I see where you're going with this, Will. But tell me more about that. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Well, my idea was because one of the, I guess the classic moments for Arthurian myth, at least in modern pop culture,
Mm-hmm.
is when Arthur uses Excalibur in anger,
Mm-hmm.
uh, es- especially in the duel with his first duel with Lancelot, and either the sword breaks or he just
Right.
can't wield the sword
Right.
anymore. How he can't use the sword anymore changes based on the depiction, but
Right.
that losing of the ability to wield Excalibur because he pulled it in anger.
I love that. And that could totally be a part of I could yeah, so like in terms of things that I would love to like add or like tweak,
Mhm.
I think True Stance could probably get a little bit of a buff. Like it's not just that you're immune to the prone condition, maybe there's something else that like, you yeah, I don't know right now, but I do love that like there's a degree of like heroic stipulation perhaps
Right.
with this title that like you must behave, I guess it's up to the director at that point to decide like have you unsheath this blade in anger to
Right.
strike down a foe that was once an ally. Oh cool, you lose this title and there's something really bad that happens, like the whatever blade it is destroyed. And of course, because this title is specifically discovering a long forgotten blade of legend, where's the blade, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Got to design the blade too.
There
I'm
are.
looking at a lot.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was looking at a lot of the titles that are in Draw Steel. I don't think any are explicitly like, oh, if you do this thing, you lose it.
Right.
But there is like sometimes like a special sort of a special sort of
Hmm.
subcategory thing where like it's often like it's almost like some downsides or obligations that come with the title,
Mm,
which feels
Right.
like what that would sort of be angling at.
right.
So
Yeah,
then like a special.
that's what I was
Right.
thinking. I saw like the night one has the thing of like, hey,
Yeah.
you might be called upon to perform duties. It doesn't say what happens if you don't, but I guess that
That's
can be
right.
more covered by, story. I guess if you're a knight working for someone and you don't do what they say, that's going to come with presumably more role play focused than mechanical
Totally.
focused consequences.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
right.
lot
I
of
was
them
I
like
was
that.
looking at the noble one too, which was kind of like a little bit of a head scratcher for me because looking at the noble title, basically like you gain an edge when interacting with like royals and nobles, and you gain a renown or you gain a renown and wealth. So it was really intriguing to me that like this is a echelon 3 title and one of the benefits is just you gain an edge on presence tests essentially, but like it's not just an edge on presence tests, it's an edge on presence tests specifically to speak with nobles, or like and
Right.
some of their adjacent like categories of like folk. So that's also what kind of made me feel like one effect, being immune to the prone condition, could fit with a tier 3 echelon title.
It's fair.
um yeah, and then it was kind of all over the place. I felt that there wasn't like a specific criteria,
Hmm.
for what how powerful do these like effects need
Yeah.
to be in order to fit into the tier 3 echelon. No, I love that idea, and I love the idea of like dangling something in front of the players, like here's your carrot, like here's your reward, but little did they know like it's got conditions attached to it, like and that is very dramatic, right? That's very
That is really
cinematic
cool.
too.
I agree. I think having like some stipulations there would make it a lot more dynamic in that way, and it'd be really cool to see.
All right, moving on to the next one that I designed. I designed a kit. Uh, thinking of jousting knights. So,
Yeah.
um, but then the only thing that's really, I suppose, specifically unique about this kit is that not only do you get pole arm, but you can also wield a medium weapon. Because in my image of knights, right, they're on their horses using their couched lances, jousting, etc. But then also, when they're done with their joust, they draw their sword. So
Right.
so that was why I was like, okay, you wear medium armor, and you wield either a polearm or a medium weapon. Um, and then I'm just going to rattle off some of the conditions that this kit bestows, which is that you get per echelon +6 stamina. There's no speed bonus. You get a +1 stability bonus. You have 2 across the board for your melee damage. no range damage bonus. You have a melee distance bonus +1, no range distance bonus, and you have a disengage bonus of +1 as well. And then the signature ability, basically the idea is like I wanted to incentivize, and I didn't know how to like fully incentivize except for just giving them an edge, but like incentivizing the use of a mount, because and I was seeing some conversation dialogue in one of the other Discord servers that I'm a part of, that like mounted combat is a unique area in Draw Steel that like could use some development. And because like for example in D&D in 5e, when an individual's on a mount, I think you have an advantage on attacks on non-mounted combatants. Basically like you are given more prowess, and like you're more powerful when you're on a mount. And again, I could be wrong on that, but basically like there's an incentive if you have the capacity to mount up on a willing, beast of burden, cool, you're going to get a little benefit. So the idea was like this attack or this signature ability, you get an edge if you're on a mount. Again, I think there's more ways to tease apart the incentivization of having this. And like, I think anybody who is coming into Draw Steel and they have an idea of building a knight and they see something like this kit, they'll be like, cool, I get it immediately. I understand. I'm a knight errant. That's the name of this kit. I want to be able to wield a polearm, a lance, and I want to be able to fight with a sword. And I have a vision of being on a horse or some other sort of mount.
Right. I do.
But yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, guys. Yeah.
I'm sure someone is going to be making some mounted combat rules at some point. And yeah, the character I made actually for that 5-year long campaign, my first character that turned evil was actually a sort of cavalier character for 5e.
Oh, cool.
And they yeah, it didn't really work well.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever met anyone who knows how the mounted combat rules in 5e work, and that's not a dig at anyone. I don't know how the mounted combat rules in 5e work.
Clearly, I don't either. Yeah.
I have no clue.
I'd learn.
I can tell you how mounted combat works in 3.5 D&D, Pathfinder First Edition, all sorts of game systems. I don't know what 5e does.
Well, tell us what it looks like in 3.5. Real quick, if you can summarize. That might be a tall order to summarize quickly what it looks like in 3.5.
Yeah, I've played Pathfinder First more recently, so I presume that they are similar in
very similar.
Mostly, if you don't have feats, what it lets you do is more or less use your mount's movement instead of your movement, and that's basically the only big benefit for Pathfinder First. If you don't have feats, if you have feats, you can start doing weird things, but that's kind of the entire conceit of 3.5 and Pathfinder First.
That's right. These like
design
career
philosophy.
Paths. Yeah. Right on. That's cool. Yeah, I think in the next Blacksmith's Guild, there's going to be some stuff about mounted combat, which I believe you're going to be a contributing author to, Jacob.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to allude to. I was like, I'm sure someone will make
someone somewhere.
Yeah.
I am interested. Did you consider, given that the kit's kind of supposed to play into the mounted combat thing, and there aren't really strong mounted combat rules, just giving like a speed bonus to like represent that you're mounted?
That would be
interesting. No, I did not consider that, but that's
not a bad idea.
That's cool. Yeah, I guess it's like then it becomes complicated because it's like, well, I'm not mounted and I've got a speed bonus. Sweet. Right. Which is also interesting because if you look at it, and this is probably why no other kits let you wield a polearm and a medium weapon, because it doesn't make sense. Why would you have a melee distance bonus if you're wielding a medium weapon? Why would you have a disengage bonus if you're wielding a medium weapon? So it's kind of like, this is conditional, but I can't. Yeah. How do you bake that in to the design of the kit? I guess you could just be like, hey, you only get these things when you're wielding your polearm. And then it'd be like, you can also wield a medium weapon, but then your bonuses change.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like your speed, you have an increase in speed, but you lose your distance, your melee distance bonus, and your disengage bonus. Like if you swap weapons or something like that.
Okay, that could be cool.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love kits. I think kits are like a major sort of evolution for RPGs in Draw
Mm-hmm.
Steel. But I think that's one of their major issues is they're not very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
If
fair.
I'm a
I was
tactician, I have flexibility, but that's really it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was I had a similar thought about kits being a like a newer thing for RPGs. And then I can't remember what it was, but literally yesterday I was thinking about kits and Draw Steel, and I was like, I can't remember what the game system was, but I was like, wait a minute, I have seen somebody do not this exact thing before, but do a similar solution
Hmm.
to equipment of okay, we're just going to make these preset things that give preset bonuses instead of
Right.
doing like the a la carte equipment list. And I cannot remember for the
Hmm.
life of me now what game it
I
was. And it wasn't the exact same system, but I do remember thinking it was an interesting bit of like game design convergent evolution
Hmm.
that was meant to solve the same perceived issue.
Right.
I believe there's a Marvel game that exists that is similar because I remember Matt talking about how they had this idea. And they're like,
Mhm.
no other games have done this. This is really weird. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, this one game that's done it. And I think it was a Marvel game. It was a
Yeah. It's
Marvel
called
RPG.
Midnight Suns. And it's
Midnight Suns did something similar, but
yeah,
that's
and
not the
you
one I was thinking
choose.
of.
Yeah, I forget what it's called in that game, but it's basically like a loadout. Um, yeah, yeah, I really like kits too, and I think it's interesting. Yeah, I totally agreed that they're um, once you've selected them, they're inflexible. Um, so you have, but thankfully you can change your kit on your respite,
Right.
Yeah,
right?
I think that changing out on the respite is one of my favorite parts about kits because it
Mm,
allows you some flexibility of like, okay, maybe we knew we were going to fight a bunch of minion monsters, but we know at the end of this adventure we're fighting a dragon.
right.
And it's like, okay, I'm not going to bring the same stuff to fight a bunch of goblins
Hmm.
that I'm going to bring to fight a dragon because these are very different enemies.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Uh,
think the respite system for Drust is really cool and like it's just good. It works well.
Mhm.
Agreed. Yeah, I ran my first like real respite recently. And all of us at the same time were like, okay, we got to learn these rules now.
Same
It's
for me.
crafting and
I just started my Drust Steel campaign. I just rested for the first time, so
oh,
I'm trying to
nice.
go through that too.
Oh, okay, so this is interesting. Matt talked about this as like subtle advice for directors and draw steel that perhaps because I'm coming from the lessons of a D&D DM, and there are core changes when directing Draw Steel. He was like, plan your respites.
Yep. I watched the exact same stream. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Um, so right now, like my party has like a home base. It's like a peaceful village. My campaign it's like based off of, or majorly inspired by Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, like Studio Ghibli film.
Mm,
If you guys have ever seen that,
yeah.
Yeah.
and so their
Also,
Valley of the Wind is this city slash village. That's like where their home base is, and it's right now peaceful. Okay, my last thing that I designed, and I was thinking about this, and I was like, in my 3 hour homework assigned time slot, I don't have time to design a whole solo monster. So I wanted to come up with some ways to reflavor the Chimera
Hmm.
from Draw Steel. The Chimera is a level 3 solo, meaning you can put this one monster up against an entire party, um, and they get 2 actions per round, I believe. And so I was like, all right, well, like if there's more, I might go back and like completely make this as an individual entity. I think it deserves that, but I designed some malice features for the questing beast, the mythical legendary beast, also called the Gladissant. I think that's a French word, and I'm definitely going to be
It is.
mispronouncing it
Yeah.
according to
It's a
some
French word.
folks. Gladissant. Uh, and I think, and so I was doing research, looking into it, and I guess that name has to do with the barking of dogs. It's kind of interesting. Um,
Oh.
and like all these strange legends of how this beast came to be, because in their appearance, their description, they have like the head of a snake and the body of a leopard and the hooves
Oh,
of a
yeah.
hart, or a right, a some sort of deer, right? What I think is interesting and potential for drama in a story is that, like, when the heroes do something, like if they've failed to right a wrong, if they've betrayed the trust of an ally, then, as long as it, like fits properly in the campaign, then like the questing beast, appears before them. Um, and I think it probably could be really fun for the players to, because if something happens, like, right, like a lot of times when in our TTRPG campaigns, players are going to behave in a certain way, like, I'm going to negotiate with this, like, shopkeep. Even though this is their livelihood, I'm going to negotiate to get like all this stuff for free because
Right.
I don't want to spend any gold or whatever on this shopkeep's like hard earned, like hard fought wares that they've collected and gathered. You know what I mean? And so a certain, maybe we would say like degenerate behavior exists sometimes with like murder hobos, where it's like, we don't care, we're not actually role playing, and that's fine, right? Like, that's all good. But how fun or interesting would it be if something occurred where they did do something where they've betrayed the trust because they don't necessarily care, and now boom, there's a consequence.
That is really fun.
Questing beast.
Yeah.
The Gladysant. So the first idea that I had was like Malice, and for their first Malice feature, would be that it's called Lure into the Mist. This idea of Mists of Avalon kind of creeping in here, but all creatures in a 3 burst are reason less than 3 days and weakened until the end of their turn. Um, I I didn't have time to be like, come up with teleportation rules for a Malice feature, but essentially this idea that like the questing beast like expels this like um mist that encompasses the battlefield, and almost inadvertently, the players are transported because they can't reason their way out of it. They're like, what is happening? So I put dazed and weakened, which is quite punishing. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a 5 Malice ability. The other one would be one with the Woad. 5 Malice ability as well. The entire encounter map becomes difficult terrain. And so, reading the design doc, you can see it's like level 3 question mark, 4 question mark, 5 question mark, because that's a very powerful ability to like have the whole encounter map turn into difficult terrain.
Yeah.
But like, there are already abilities, I believe, that heroes can have when they're level 3, maybe even 4 or 5, where it's like they can fly. They don't need to worry
Yeah.
about, like, difficult terrain is going to affect the entire party. So anyway, trying to
I
balance it
think
out.
even Devil like can ignore difficult terrain with one of their things.
Right. Right. And I know like a
Yeah.
Wodell features, right? They can shift into difficult terrain. Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
Um, and then the final one, so kind of getting back into this, like, what's the origin of this, of the questing beast, is like there's these spectral elements, there are these, inexplicable elements, having to do with like a horde, a pack of creatures. And so a 7 Malice ability would that they basically summon a spectral horde of beast minions. And so if this design was being presented as a product for individuals to purchase or download and review on their own, which I might tweak later, there would be a beast minion that also goes with them. And they'd be like a spectral like beast minion that summons into the battlefield and like disrupts combat and basically aggroes the party because they're like barking and drawing their attention away from the questing beast. So yeah, I thought those were like some unique features that could be added as malice that would kind of change the dynamic and flavor of the chimera, which could be just reflavored. What I would love to do though is go back and like design from top to bottom a full individual solo.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
all your work here really makes you want to play a Arthurian campaign. Like I think as lore would actually really work really well as a setting for that
Totally.
Type of campaign. Like
Okay.
like bread bagels are literally like the Green Knight.
Oh yeah,
Bread battles.
bread battles.
Yeah,
You know.
I have always wanted to play in like an Arthurian themed game, though I often have trouble because I'm very much a history guy. I'm
Hmm.
a big fan of history, especially of like history of like warfare and battles and technological development. So it's always hard for me because part of me is like, oh, I really want to run an Arthurian game like based on the later medieval writings where
Mm-hmm.
Arthur's in full plate and stuff like that because that's
Mm.
very central to the modern pop culture thing. And then part of me is also like, I don't know, it'd be kind of really cool to run a more like ninth or 10th century styled like Anglo-Saxons in, chainmail one that might be a little less connected to the pop culture
Right.
depiction, but is more in line with, the historical.
I think that'd be super cool. And I know that there are some games that try to capture, although whether or not they're attempting to capture the fantasy that you just explicitly defined, and more just like the vibe of, I'll be playing it this month. You guys maybe, I think we talked about it last week, but Mythic Bastion Land
Yeah.
is a game
Right.
that, and then Pendragon, the game by the people who make or Chaosium, yeah, those same folks that
Hmm.
make Call of Cthulhu. They have a game called Pendragon, which it's in the name, right? Um, yeah, that was so. Just kind of, I have a question about that, Will. Like, if you did run a campaign like that, would you have stipulations? Like, hey, here's going to be the minimum like restrictive criteria, like you have to be these sets of ancestries. Magic would work different. You can only choose these kinds of kits, etc. Would you like put restrictions like that to make sure everyone was
Yeah,
like,
probably. In fact,
yeah,
that is one of the big things. I think I talked with Jacob about this briefly at one point. One of the big reasons I haven't tried running Draw Steel yet
yeah,
is my personal like homebrew fantasy world that I use for any fantasy system like this clashes a lot with Draw Steel. There are so many things that I would have to take off the table that I
mm-hmm,
often ask myself, does Draw Steel fit? Like you couldn't play like half of the ancestries basically don't exist there are no dragon knights in my world, which I know
mm-hmm,
is weird because I've professed a love for dragons,
sure,
but there are lore reasons there are no dragon knights. Most people probably there are devils, but most people probably wouldn't want to play them because of
right.
some reasons, and like there are no elves in my world, which I know once again I love elves. It's super weird that I made a fantasy world in which there are no elves. There used to be elves,
Mm,
but
Yeah, there you go.
they are here no longer. Very kind of Tolkien-esque. The
they've left.
Hakan, yeah, the Hakan would once again be similar to the devils, where most people probably wouldn't play them for
Mm-hmm,
reasons. The Mnemonic and Time Raiders, I'm not a huge
Yeah.
sci-fi person in my
mm-hmm.
fantasy, so they're just
Very
like right
weird.
out the window.
Right. Well, see, I think that's 100% legit. And
Yeah.
that I totally see how you could be like, I don't know if draw steel is the right system because you have to say no, or you would want to exclude those. But I think it can kind of go the other way. It's like, is the system of draw steel correct for the kind of story you want to tell? Where it's
Mhm.
like we're going to be in combat a lot, and you've got these robust rules for negotiation, for montage tests, and there's still like so much dramatic role playing you can do. And then,
There is.
is the system conducive to the kind of, combat that fits into your image where you have like very cinematic, very tactical, and heroic, against all odds kind of fantasy, which, yes or no, I mean, there could be like in the concept of knights, combats are like what did it actually look like? It probably wasn't that dramatic. It was like people
Right.
getting really tired really fast because they're swinging really big swords, and they would actually like this combat to be over as quickly as possible.
Yes,
Um,
everyone would like to go home and stop killing each other
that's
now, but
right.
that's not an
Yeah.
option.
Like cool, we're going out to achieve glory. And we believe in what we're doing, probably. But we would really actually probably prefer to not have to go put our lives like put ourselves in mortal peril. Um,
Mhm.
like we'll do it. It's our duty. We are sworn. Um, yeah. So yeah, I think that's legit. I would love to play in your game where you could be like, you can only be a human and you can only choose a martial class. And you can't use, like any supernatural abilities, and no complications. And that's fine because you have, right? Like it's a very specific kind of story you're trying to tell.
Right.
So anyway, do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I also think with the way Draw still does a lot of ancestries, it's point buy. I think if you just like make like 5 more of those, then like you could fit pretty well. Like
That's
because it
fair.
gives you a lot more customability within those niches, right?
Hmm.
And I
Rather than
do
just be having like humans like +1 all around, right? Now it's
right.
Right,
like
right,
humans have like
right,
all these
right.
blissful abilities you can
Yeah.
choose
Right.
from.
It's not boring to build a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have been looking at like for like you could play there are half elves in my world because in
Mm,
my half elves can like they're not mules essentially, which I hate.
I see.
That sounds but they're not half elves can create half elf children.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to use like the woad elf or high elf ancestry,
Yeah,
you're
just
just
tweak it.
playing a half elf. And I probably wouldn't change anything about it. It's just you can't be an actual full elf. They
Right.
don't exist. But all of these things that, these elf ancestries do, that's the type of thing a half elf does.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
That's
just do
cool.
that. So I have been looking at that, or I probably the high elf. I actually had a different idea for like what I would use that in for my world, but I have something. So that was making me feel more like go towards it. It's like, okay, I could still use these ancestries, just not exactly
Yeah.
how they are
Like
here.
I think the con would be just like a good sort of version of like a different kind of human, right? Or a different sort of like almost like a
Mm.
I don't know. But no, yeah, actually, that's really exciting. I really enjoyed what you've made here, Paul.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh man, I love that questing
Um,
beast.
yeah, it's really cool.
And
Um,
I would love to see a full solo monster of the questing beast. I think
it'd be cool.
All right, will
I wonder
do.
if you can get
absolutely
away
fascinating.
with doing a combat and a negotiation somehow, like doing like weird like meld of those. So
Oh.
like the idea of like as you fight it,
Ooh,
having like to try to like to make a
Oh.
case for why what you did wasn't evil or
that's
wasn't
that's
bad.
really fun.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd do that, but I'm sure you could do it. I'm sure
You'd
you
have to
could.
like alternate rounds, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or something like that.
Who knows?
That sounds
That's
very
fun.
questing piece.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
that is a cool idea.
But beyond that, yeah, you did a really good job. How would you expand upon this? Like this as a sort of a project as a whole.
Great question. How would I expand upon it? I would definitely, well, first I would love to test out the title.
Yeah.
Um, like is this actually worthy of an echelon? Of this specific echelon that I've not necessarily arbitrarily assigned to it, but like with my best guess assigned, like is it actually valuable to have the immunity to prone, or are people just going to ignore that every time and choose like the other two, which is kind of my intuition that people would be like, I'm just going to ignore that one because who cares about prone when I can deal all this extra dope damage or have damage immunity all the time.
7.
So I would love to test that out. I would love to design the blade that goes along with the title, to design a Excalibur esque. It would probably be an artifact, as opposed to a leveled treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'd love to do that. I would love to put another layer of incentive into the Knight Errant kit to really communicate that this is meant to be for individuals or in mounted combat. And I would love to, for the Gladys, as Will just said, I would love to design from top to bottom the questing beast, as opposed to just being like, this is just malice to use with a reflavored chimera.
Awesome.
That's what I would do.
Like, so I've had projects where I've done on this podcast where I'm like, I like what I did here, but I don't think I'd ever expand upon it. Like, do you think you'd ever like be interested, like you'd ever expand upon this? Like
Oh, for
your own
sure.
thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Nice.
I actually do think there needs to be a beast minion, um, and that would be part of designing this monster.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there should be a minion version of a beast, in my opinion. So
Cool. That'd be really rad to see. Like, you design off this. I think. Do you think you would package it as like here's a lot of just like Arthurian stuff? Would you package it as like mainly here's the creature? Like, how do you package this if you were
I
to?
think I think they would all relate. They would all go together, and because it's clearly meant. I mean, I think what I would actually do now that I'm thinking about it, like this could be cool for like Echelon 3 play. So maybe I would shift it to be like, yeah, okay, here's a kit, but here's a Echelon 3 title. Here's a artifact, which is like that's by definition like a potentially game breaking item, so it should be late game. And maybe make this beast like Echelon 3 as well, like an Echelon 3 like solo. And so it's like, hey, if you want to run some high level draw steel, here's a little bit of design for you that you can sink your teeth into, like ready made here.
Nice.
And then maybe
Yeah.
have it go with like an encounter as well, like a very specific encounter.
Cool. It's I guess one last question on my part at least.
Sure.
So something I feel like I had a chance to ask Will this because we've gone through this together. We've been doing this for a few episodes now. For you, because this style of homebrewing and creation is very different, right? Having only 3 hours and then coming
Right.
back to share it and like having to finish it in that 3 hours, not just like, oh, I'm only gonna do the first bit here.
Right.
It's like, oh, you have to make like a kind of finished product in 3 hours. How was your experience with that? Because it's a very like unique way to do it.
I enjoyed the challenge, and
Yeah.
like I work in such a way where I will like put a whole bunch of like big ideas down on the page and then leave and then come back and refine and whittle, and I'll like talk about it out loud to myself. I'll like go watch like I'll like engage with like associated media. So like I started listening to like Mists of Avalon audiobook. I had intentions to rewatch The Sword in the Stone, and rewatch The Green Knight. And I was reading. I read some Chrétien de Troyes to like get back into the vibe. So like I work, I think, a little slow. So it was for me challenging to be like, you just got 3 hours. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And I was like, so a really unique and interesting design challenge. But I know for me, yeah, I work not like molasses necessarily, but I like to be like here and like scatter all over the place, and then ultimately arrive, like trust myself to arrive at like the design conclusion where it's like, yep, that's it. That's key in lock. And cool. Now that one's in. Now I can move on to the next one. That's informing like
Right.
the rest of my decisions.
Nice.
It's a very unique way to do it, and I think something I think we both, me and Will, have discovered is you get a lot of really cool ideas whenever you're sort of almost like quick firing these. Right?
Mhm.
Every like 2 weeks you have something new for a new system.
Yeah. Quick note to harken back to something I talked about earlier, not to derail the discussion too much. The RPG I was thinking of is a homebrew system one of the YouTubers I watch is making mostly for his home games that he's titled 5D, and it doesn't quite do the same kit thing, but it does a
5D.
similar. Yeah, 5D. Yeah, in reference to 5e. As
Cool.
it does a similar thing. And if anyone wants to check him out, he's Demonac. He does some fun animated D&D content.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, as a little side tangent, just a small question. I have Mr. Avalon hardcover.
Oh, nice.
Are they good?
I've never read them.
Oh, you haven't read them? Okay.
Nope.
Cool.
So
Perfect.
I was like,
No,
I've heard this is really good. Let me start listening to it, get into the vibe.
Yeah, well-
So far, what I've listened to, I've enjoyed.
Cool. Okay.
All right. Well, I think Jacob, you're up next, aren't you?
Yeah. So, Will, I believe you gave me my prompt was waning.
Yeah.
I did not know what to do with that for the longest time until I sat down and I did. So I've made the Knights of the Pale. I guess somewhat similar in vibe, I guess, to what you did, Paul. But
Hmm.
it's a bit different. But I took like I did the Knights route. Um,
Cool.
for the longest time, I thought I was like gonna do like some like weird like moon people or something like that, and I was like, no. And so what I ended up doing was the Knights of the Pale, which I could just read it here. Uh, I actually need to change that because that's the Knights of the Pale, not the Crescent Knights. The Knights. So they are an ancient order of knights. Is their main deal, created by the Astral Elves, however long ago. The original purpose has been forgotten, but it's made up of 8 knights, each of which represent like a different phase in the moon. Many sources said they ascended to Arcadia. Yet every few decades, a lone knight appears again in Orden. It is said, if a knight is slain, the moon phase they represent also fades. So they're almost like these sort of representational figures to each moon phase,
Ooh.
which I think is pretty cool. They are neither good nor evil. They simply act the will of the true elves. I imagine there's maybe a specific true elf that like made this order that is like kind of somewhat separate. But I didn't really
I
get that down.
love that.
Yeah, which means they could be either allies or enemies depending on their time and purpose. As well as in Elven lore, I decided each phase of the moon represents a different feeling. And so for the one person I made here, the one knight, which is the Waning Crescent Knight, their feeling is regret.
Oh,
Yes. So I made a creature. I don't know if it's well balanced. I think it is. I followed some guides. It's a level 5 platoon elite. I was going to do a solo or a leader, but I was like, nah, I really don't want to do that. I think that's I don't know if that fit. I made some malice features, as well as a title at the very end. I went for the title. I wanted to do multiple options for it, but I only did like a single thing for it. So I would probably expand upon that.
Hmm.
So the knight I wrote about, his name is the last impulse of a dying dream, who is the Knight of the Waning Crescent. So I guess we can go through. Let's go start with the malice features. So the first feature, which is 3 malice, is the Knight of the Pale makes a free strike against an adjacent enemy, and that's titled "On Guard, Knave of Flesh." Because I imagine the knight's almost like somewhat moonlight, made of moonlight. So it's like, oh, you're a knave of flesh on guard, sort of deal. Then I have Call to Me page, which is 5 malice, where a moonlight copy of the Knight of the Pale appears on the battlefield. Any knight may take their action from this duplicate. It is 15 stamina, and if it's killed, then one of their abilities is automatically used, an aura ability, or a burst rather. Then the last one, Moonlight Shines Down Upon Us, which is 7 malice, where the battlefield is covered in a blanket of moonlight. Any Knight of the Pale can choose to take a second action on their turn. So that's sort of like they go like super mode,
Damn.
right? Whenever the battlefield's covered in like an intense moonlight. So they are an elf, a high elf. I was debating what kind of elf they are because I don't know. I at first I was like high elf because I like their names. For the longest time I thought I'd do a frost elf from Blacksmith's Guild.
Haha.
I was like, maybe because like they have a vibe, and I don't think the vibes mesh really well for what I was trying to go for. But I was like, for the longest time, I was like, I'm gonna do a frost elf. But I was like, I didn't know if I should. They're really cool though, because as if anyone knows, the frost elves were made by our Paul here
Hello.
in Blacksmith Guild.
Oh.
Yes. I was looking through it. I was like, it's a frost elf here. I could do that. Okay. So they have 130 stamina, 5 speed, so they're not very fast. They have a 6 free strike, as well as stability of 4. So I imagine like sort of heavy armored.
Yeah.
So they're very like traditional like knight-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Their first ability, which is an action, is Crescent Blade, which is like a target to people who are adjacent. It's a damage and it's a push, a vertical push. So I imagine it's very almost like Dark Souls, like hits and like this like a throws you away.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, if the target's winded, they become dazed. Save-ins. So that could be nasty.
Yeah.
Super nasty.
Yeah, I don't know if that's balanced, but
I love that.
we'll
though.
see.
Who cares?
Charge On, where it's an 8 by 1 line, which of effect, and basically matches them to almost like charging through a group, like a line of people, as they appear at the end of the line. and it's they do damage and they push. Or imagine just like pushing it to the side. It was like a train sort of like of a sort of knight coming through. Next is the maneuver. It's the first thing I made for them. It's how can one live without regret, which is a maneuver.
Love that name.
It's a burst 3. It does damage, and it has a weakening ability. It was kind of taken from one of the high elf abilities, which is similar, has a weaken thing. But I have the effect is if the creature's weakened from its ability, they must loudly confess their deepest regret. Really fun. Then one with the cycle, which is an ability I have. While the moon is out in a waning crescent, the last impulse has damage immunity 3.
Nice.
And imagine this is the same for every night. They have damage immunity 3 whenever their moon thing is out. Right? It's powerful. But it should be, right? It's their sort of like it's not just that they name it after the thing. They are that phase. It's sort of, they're tied to that like eternally. So that's kind of what that represents.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Then I have Regretless, which is this ability is very what's the term? It depends on how GM wants to interpret it. But anyone fighting the last impulse who has no regrets ignores the damage immunity and cannot become weakened by the last impulse. So if a player character who just has no regrets, none at all, which at this level in the game, I'd be surprised if there was.
Interesting.
They are the best under.
Yeah, I think that's one of those abilities I think the players can't know about that ahead of time, because then everyone's going to be like, well, okay, not everyone. A lot of people I play with
I have no
are
regrets.
going to be like, I have no regrets.
Yeah.
So, but like, if you use, what is it? Which one was it? The how can one live without regret? And a character's weakened. And then you're like, okay, what's your character regret? And then they're thinking about it and they're legitimately like, oh, I don't know if my character has any regrets. Then it's fun.
Yeah, you're like, ding, 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 you win.
You win, yeah. And the final ability, a triggered action called Light Stuff, because again, imagine they're like part like sort of moonlight almost. Is if they take damage, they half that damage and then they teleport 8 squares away. Like,
damn.
It's like almost like a Star Trek style teleporter.
Or it's kind of how I always wanted Misty Step to work in 5e. Like I don't know, there's just something very cool to me about that style of like evading attacks, or in this case reducing damage from attacks.
That's cool.
Yeah. The final thing I made was the title, which is Oath of the Pale. So if the little quote I made, our oath isn't to that of Orden or Arcadia. It is to the isolated pale above, which is the moon. Is the name for the moon. So prerequisites is you are an elf and have convinced 4 knights of the pale that you are worthy. And again, I wanted to do a multiple choice thing here, which I probably would if I were to fully do this. But what I have here, I think, is okay. The adoption of a new knight of the order also creates a new phase of the moon. As a respite, so you basically make a new phase of the moon, a whole new one.
That's really cool.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either,
but let the DM
we'll find out.
Decide.
Yeah.
As a respite activity, you can travel to Arcadia, and more specifically, the Fortress of the Order of the Pale. During this new moon phase, you are empowered and gain damage immunity 3.
Woo.
Basically, become a knight of the moon.
Wow.
So
that's really cool.
That's what I bring up forward.
I love that.
So cool.
Thank you.
I can see. So yeah, top to bottom, incredible. Really love the fantasy and flavor of this. I'm 100% envisioning. I can see in my mind this like high elven moon knight. Absolutely. I could see why you'd say frost elves. Just because it's like, all right, moon, it's cold, frost elves. Does that mean you think of the moon knights as like haughty and like elitist?
Not really. It's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't go frost elves, right?
Yeah.
I think the frost elves are very like elitist and stuff.
Right, exactly, and that's like a core
And I
element
don't-
that like you
Yeah, I don't wanna
they're
give that-
they're the most
vibe.
inscrutable. That like if you accidentally like don't wipe your your feet like 18 times like on the doormat and step in and don't do a 360 cartwheel and bow with like your left hand going down, you're marked for death, and so is your family and like everyone who's ever known you. It's like all these elaborate, I just made that up, but it's like all these like elaborate like inscrutable etiquette. So anyway, Knights of the Pale, I love it. I love the idea. I mean, Waning Crescent, we talked about, my Crescent Moon adventure, Tomb of the Crescent Moon. So there's like, I'm biased, of course, but I love those details. That, I could totally see like reflavoring this just a little bit and throwing them into my adventure, that like if you happen to like somehow like interface in a bad way with like the saint of the tomb, then like you are marked and now you have to deal with one of these knights and like you are not equipped to deal with them. The one thing I'll say about the title, that is so fun. And the fact that like you don't leave it, like you don't give a definition for what that means. Like number one, you get to go to Arcadia. Cool. That's really super cool. Right? Like I don't think you even actually need another effect for this because you create a new phase of the moon.
That's
like
so cool.
Jacob, what does that mean, Jacob? Like, huh? Yeah, like, and that's, I love your guts where you're like, I'm not going to tell you what that means. You tell me what it means. Yeah.
I love having those effects where like it's like creates those sparks of imagination, but like doesn't stay out right. And I think it's also very I think Matt does this a lot, where it is a real effect that's kind of fantasized to it, like made into like a fantasy, right? And it's like this thing that has total like real scientific reasons in the real world. Well, that's not the case here.
Right.
In Orden, the phases of the moon are just different nights.
Yeah, obviously.
Right?
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love the idea of, hey, if you kill this night forevermore, that phase does not exist.
Oh, shit.
I think I'm putting it.
It is said that if the night is slain,
it's gone.
That is one of my favorite fantasy tropes. I love that killing like some archetypal being that represents something removes that thing from the world. I first encountered it in
Airbender.
What did I first encounter it in? Exalted, which has a whole like prehistory of like slaying these primordial beings that created the world, and the reason they imprison the rest of them instead of killing all of them is they kill a couple of them and they realize, oh no, these things are so integral to the world that when you kill them, parts of the world stop existing. So like in Exalted, there are colors that don't exist anymore, and no one can remember them except for people or gods or other beings that were around when it happened.
Wow.
And there are like entire directions you used to be able to move in that just don't exist. They physically no longer are a part of the world. So I love things like that.
Yeah, I'm getting some Last Airbender vibes too. I think that's worth mentioning. I don't know if either of you have watched Last Airbender, but at the conclusion of season 1, like Zhao, one of the Fire Nation firebenders, kills one of the moonfish, and
it's very dramatic.
It's like, what? Like you can just kill the moon? Yeah. So that's super dope.
I think something I like about my implementation here, right? If you kill one knight, right, it's bad, right? But it's not like world ending. Like a party could theoretically like warrant to themselves that this guy should, like, one of these knights should die, right? It doesn't like break the world. It's just one less moon phase, and it's like, sure, that's like a major deal, but it's not like so you could theoretically like sort of warrant doing so.
Yeah, but
that's
what
so
happens if you
interesting
kill
too.
all
Like,
of them? Is there no more moon?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And what
Who
if you
knows?
need to kill? What if the heroes need to kill all of them? Like, or rather, like, what if their enemies are now like these lunar knights, these Knights of the Pale, and in order to achieve their goals, whatever they might be, these knights need to perish.
Yeah.
What? Huh?
Yeah. Can you tell us really avoiding writing Moon Knight?
Yes.
Hey, you could write Moon Knight. Marvel's not going to come knocking on your door.
To be fair, I love my alternate. I think Knights of the Pale is so much better.
That is really good name.
I think it. But I'm very happy with what I made here. I think it's cool.
Yes.
It gives me like of course there's also like the association like beyond the pale. That the idiom. So there's unique associations there too. Yeah, I really enjoy this design. I could totally see like throwing these guys in as is into one of my encounters.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I would love to see the whole retinue of these knights,
Mhm.
like
Right.
designing each individual phase. That'd probably be a lot of work.
It would be, but
But
it'd be
that would be
cool,
really cool.
right?
And
Yeah.
then if you wanted to go like the extra mile, you could write lore for their creation. Like, what's the name of the astral elf, right? Like the ancient entity who created them. Yeah,
If I were to expand this, I think it'd be my first step is expanding upon some of like their greater sort of like timescape lore. Like
yeah,
are they on Arcadia? I honestly they may not be. I was like they could be. Maybe they're on
right.
Manifold.
Maybe they're a
Yeah,
separate manifold. Maybe they're on the moon.
You know.
maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, is that too cheesy? Is that too
No, I love
weird?
that.
No,
But I guess
no,
the
it's
MCN
not.
adventure is literally going to the
Yeah,
sun.
It's not too weird, Jacob.
never too weird.
In my setting, there is an actual moon, which is kind of like Martian
Hmm.
in a sense, and then there's an artificial moon that was created from the land. Like they ripped up this massive tract of land and sent it into the sky, and now similar to our moon, it's tidally locked, meaning like you only ever see one face, but it's crescent shaped, and that crescent shape travels and yeah.
It's really cool.
So no,
Do you want
yeah, get weird,
do you want to know what my headcanon is, kinda?
Yes,
please.
absolutely.
I think my theory. My theory, headcanon theory, is that they formed, you know how like Scythian Ronazir is trapped in the sun?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. You don't.
Well, come on.
Their
No, just kidding.
Tiamat
Mhm, yes.
their Tiamat basically is trapped.
Okay,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
I theorize they were the people, this order that was created, were the people to originate that practice by trapping something in the
Ooh.
moon. And whenever they needed to trap Scythian Ronazir, they went to them. They're like, how'd you do this?
Yes.
How'd you trap this one creature? Probably like maybe a lesser or maybe a greater evil, I don't know. How'd you trap this person in here? It's like, oh, we'll help you. This is a great enough threat that will help you. And they were part of the people who made the sun, but due to like they're like sun like such
Yeah.
imagine like there's some sort of like
That's fun.
some like maybe like oh maybe they did it, but then like people who they asked help they like disagreed with this
Mhm.
whole deal I imagine.
Absolutely.
But that's my
That's
headcanon.
awesome.
I have one
Um,
question for you. Why'd you go for a platoon?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind
Yeah.
of just like that's the strongest you can get I think without it being a leader or solo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think elite, right?
Aren't they elite? I thought is
They
it
are
platoon
elite. Yeah.
Yeah, it's platoon elite. They're two separate.
I guess I'm just
identifiers.
confused about because like doesn't platoon mean that like there's like a group of them? So it's like is it the knight leading a bunch
it?
of
Not necessarily. And I'll read
yeah.
platoons. So monster platoons are highly organized and usually self-sufficient armies. Platoons are well-rounded organizations, well equipped to handle most combat objectives. A single platoon creature is a decent threat to a hero of the same
Okay.
level. So an encounter consisting entirely of these creatures typically has one per hero. Platoon creatures often fight
Okay.
alongside minions and an elite creature or two to round out their ranks.
Okay.
So there might be a little bit of a misnomer here where you're doing platoon and elite, because it could just be
Yeah.
that they're a level 5 elite and then you assign them a role. Like I think this one might be like a Harrier, or maybe actually looking at them, right? How mobile are they? I mean, they can teleport, so they might be a
They have a
Harrier.
teleportation.
Yeah.
It's like about like they're slow, but I think their teleporter and also like their charging ability is
Yeah.
really cool. Like it's like
Yeah, there you go. So that's a really good point that you brought up there, Will. Yeah, because platoon.
yeah, that was definitely a mistake on my part.
Yeah, no, that's okay, right?
Yeah,
Like
that happens.
we're still learning like what's
Yeah.
the nomenclature. Yeah.
Right. Also, I think I really love to continue this. I think having this, I think I also like the
Please do.
show I had. Did the name feel like it vibed?
Oh, that was gonna. So
Which-
I know we probably need to shift over to Will in a second to talk
Yeah,
about
sorry.
the
No,
final
you're good.
prompt. But that was gonna be the one thing that I was gonna ask too. How did you come up with the name "The Last Impulse of a Dying Dream"? Because I think that's fantastic.
That is a killer name.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's such a
Oh,
great
yeah.
elven name.
It took a while. I was trying to figure out what to do, and I was looking through the elven names they gave. I was like, but I wanted something that kind of gave the vibe of the emotion they were tied to,
Mm-hmm.
but without being like very expressly that. Like, and I like the idea of like the last impulse of a dying dream. Their dying dream. right? They have
Mm.
regrets, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the
Ah.
whole sort of
Oh.
um,
Oh.
it's like the last impulse. Even it may not be a strong impulse, but the last impulse of a dying dream.
Your dreams are dead.
Yeah, I may play this. I may play this character. I think it'd be really fun to play this as a player
That
character.
would
The
be
last impulse of a
That would
dying
be
such a
dream.
really
The
cool.
Moon
fantastic
Yeah.
Knight.
NPC. Yeah. And yeah, wow.
Okay, yeah. So continuing on, Will, do you want to repeat what your prompt was, Paul, that you gave the Will?
Absolutely. So I gave Will a prompt. It was not, I didn't have the guts to give a single word prompt like you did, Will. Um, so I gave you something specific, which was harvested parts of a dragon, but going maybe a little bit tangential to what we typically associate
Right.
with the harvested parts of a dragon, as opposed to the teeth, the claws, and the scales. Some more strange, fantastical internal organs.
Right.
Um,
So I wish somebody had told me that 3 hours wasn't enough time to build a solo creature, because I did spend a lot of time going, oh, I don't have time to finish that.
I think you could. Like
I think
yeah.
if I had only been
Whoa.
trying to make the solo creature, I might have been able to do it. But I didn't just want
Mm-hmm.
this solo
Yeah.
creature, because I came up with this idea for a creature. Her name is Scytherax, the Artificial Worm.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And I wanted an adventure, like a short, like 1 or 2 session adventure around this creature. So I have the vague outline of an adventure, including fighting some kobolds, and she's got a lair that has traps. And it's just she's like kidnapped the prince of a kingdom because sort of Frankenstein's bride style. She wants to make a companion for herself.
Oh.
Uh, so I don't know. I thought that was fun. She's kind of both the monster and the doctor in that analogy. So yeah, but I think the main meat is this solo monster I have partially designed.
Hmm.
So Scytherax, the artificial worm, is a level 7 solo monster, dragon humanoid. She's size 1 because she is a person. She's a
Wow.
person with dragon bits grafted onto her, but she's a person. A regular
Oh.
human.
I I didn't catch that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Most of her base stats are actually, I just used one of the dragons that's already in the book. I think it was the Molten Dragon, or Forge Dragon, maybe is
Cool.
what it's called. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just to have an idea of like what about this level should stats look like. Um, I think I lowered might and upped agility a little bit because obviously she's smaller than an actual dragon, so she doesn't hit quite as hard, but she's a lot more agile because she's not, this big thing. So she's a solo monster, which, like you talked about, they get 2 turns each round. They also
Hmm.
have, I believe, end effect, so they can just take 10
Yeah.
damage to
Yeah, they
end
can take damage to end effects. Yeah.
saving throw effects instead of having to make the save. And I went for her villain abilities. I didn't touch any of the malice stuff or any of that because I wasn't really sure how to balance them. But the villain actions, I know, since they can only use them once, they can be kind of they can punch a little harder. Uh, and it gave me good. I could tie those actions to these parts she has like implanted in herself. So each one's like tied to a specific thing she has. So the first real villain action is Behold My Treasures. And she has this sort of
Oh.
cloak that's surgically sewn into her shoulders of feathers from these dragons that she's killed.
Ugh.
That she fans out, and it does sonic damage. And if you're, I cannot remember, I is intuition. That's right. Yeah,
Intuition.
if your intuition is less than 2, 3, or 4, depending on how she rolls, um, your dazed save ends. So that's pretty strong, and it's a 6 burst, so she might be hitting everyone in the party with that in theory. Uh, and that, like I said, is connected to these dragon feathers she has, and they also are what let her fly and hover. So it's kind of a cloak, but they sort of act as wings. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm sure somebody could find something fun.
Cool.
Her next one is I See Your Soul. It's magic range 10, two creatures. It does considerably more damage, like 10, 13, 20. And then if your presence
Nice.
is less than 2, 3, or 4, your frightened save ends. So she has a lot of debuffing people to
Mm-hmm.
make them
Mm-hmm.
weaker. And then her last villain ability is Stolen Breath, which I gave her the Broom Breath signature ability from the Gloom Dragon stat block that she can use as a villain action. And that comes
Oh
from she
my
has replaced her
gosh.
stomach with a Bazoar
Oh my
from a Gloom
gosh.
Dragon.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is so cool and gross.
yeah.
I really want to see art of this
Oh,
character.
she would look horrible. I forgot eyes
Yeah.
that light I See Your Soul, along with she has another ability called Eyes That
Eyes
Light the
that light the
Hall
hall
from
from
floor to
floor to
ceiling,
ceiling.
come from these gemstones that are where her eyes used to be, that she got from the heart of a forge dragon that she killed. Uh,
Jeez, that's
yeah.
insane.
And
Wow.
Yes.
she ignores concealment, essentially. She doesn't take banes on strikes against
Mm.
creatures with concealment. And the last
Mm-hmm.
one that I think is the most gross is reflexes of a cat. So she always acts first in combat if she's not surprised. So you don't get a roll,
Mm-hmm.
she's just faster than you. And even if you surprise her, you don't gain the normal advantages from surprise. So even if you surprise her, you still have to roll to see who acts first. She's not surprised during the first round. She just can react so quickly to the environment around her because of what she's done to herself that she's basically impossible to surprise. And this comes from because she's replaced much of her
Wow.
musculature and tendons with that of dragons that she's killed. So she's got these muscles and tendons that are meant to move these massive creatures moving around a little, human-sized person way too fast. I also I don't know if she put the skin back afterwards. So she's got this like
Oh.
exposed musculature and tendons in like her legs and arms.
Yikes. Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Will, I have a before we talk about the unique elements from dragons, just a quick question for you. Have you played Elden Ring?
No.
Okay. So there's a do you th- spoilers for those that might still not have played it and plan to. There's an enemy that after you deal a certain amount of damage to them, they cut off their arm and attach a dragon head to their arm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is yeah. So I got vibes of Godric the Grafted,
Okay.
with this entity here. I love that. I mean, I should say there's no grading here, but gold star for both of
Oh,
you guys.
thank you.
Like with the flavor and the execution of the prompts, right? Like, oh my gosh, the musculature and tendons, fantastic. The yeah, the dragon feathers that make this cloak,
Yeah, you
the
mentioned dragon
eyes.
feathers, and I was like, I gotta use that. I
Oh
love
hell yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, and then gemstones that are taken from the heart of a forge dragon that are now eyes.
that's rad.
Yeah.
And then
I like
yeah, I just the last thing to say, a Bezoar or Bezoar,
I
I don't
don't
know the
know.
proper way to pronounce it. Those are real. I was talking to someone recently who was at one point an X-ray technician, and I was like, "What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you at work?" And they were like, "We encountered a woman who had a Bezoar
Yeah.
in her stomach. Like they're real." And so like, what the heck is a Gloom Dragon Bezoar?
I don't know, but
I don't want to know. I
yeah.
don't want to find out. It's probably really bad. Yeah. Damn.
I I almost imagine players go through this. I think it'd be really cool to have it as an award for this adventure. Would be a project source for doing this to
Yeah,
yourself.
as a note,
It's really
at the
Oh,
end of this, I said all of the items that Cithrax had should have player versions. You should be able
player
to
versions.
maybe
yeah.
not do exactly this to yourself, but you should be able to do something similar to yourself. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what her kidnapping this prince to do it to him is kind of supposed to
Oh
telegraph
my
that this is
gosh.
not a one-off thing. It can be reproduced. I don't know if you'd
Mm-hmm.
want to, but you can.
That could be associated with a fun title too, where
It
it's
could be.
like, you've replaced like parts of your body and now you have this new title,
Yeah.
like Dragon Stitched or
hmm
something.
My
Ooh, that's good. That's a
my
good
big
name.
inspiration was I think I talked about them in the first part about there are these monsters from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons who are
Yeah,
like this is what happens when you do that. I think they're called the Dragonflesh Grafter and Abomination. And that was a lot of my inspiration was like, okay, what if we turn that up to 11?
mm,
Yeah. I Where did you get the dragon name? Like, did you
I
like
made
what?
that
How
up.
would you like? Did you have inspiration?
Uh
An
I
inspiration?
stole it partially from once again Demonac, who I love his dragons. He's got an unlisted video covering this like council of dragons who are arguing about something, and one of the dragons in that I believe is named Cytheros. So
interesting.
Okay.
uh, I like the axe ending a little bit better there, so that's what I went with. Um, I stole "Eyes that light the hall from floor to ceiling" is a quote from The Hobbit, or not quite a quote. I think it's a paraphrasing of a bit from The Hobbit about Smaug,
Smog, yeah.
Wow.
which
Okay.
I I'd love to build Smaug now that I think about it in Draw Steel and
That'd be
use
fun.
all of those things he says about himself as his ability
Ooh,
names. Because
yes.
he's like his armor is tenfold shields, his
Yeah.
his teeth and claws. He talks about his tail being like a thunderclap. His wings are
Right.
like hurricanes.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've struggled with in designing to draw steel is just because all those names are so clever. Trying to match their level is is
Right.
difficult.
It
Yeah,
is.
the
I think.
names are works of art unto themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you can tell I did Reflexes of a Cat last because I was running low on time and I was like, I have no idea what to name this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad name, but it's not a strong name. It's definitely, yeah. So I think if I had more time, if I was gonna do
Yeah.
more work on this, which I might, one, I'd love to have the actual full adventure because it's right now it's literally just like
Mm,
the king's
it's an encounter.
son was stolen. They think the dragon that lives in the nearby mountains did it. A little note about who's done it and what's happening. There's an encounter with kobolds that I have written out. Not fully,
Mm-hmm.
but a little encounter with some kobolds where you can do some fun stuff. Where one of the options is if you defeat, you can either defeat both of the centurions or one of the centurions and one of the other elites. And if you do the second one, the other centurion has been like trying to like vying to be in charge of these kobolds, and you can go into a negotiation with the remaining kobolds to get information about the lair and the traps that they've built in this lair to try to avoid
Mm-hmm.
those.
Well, Will, if you want to if you want this to be a project we do, I'm fully okay with
We
this.
could.
I think it'd be really
We
fun
It's
to
could.
do.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
I want to have the opportunity to see this character in arted. I think it'd be really
That would
fun.
be really
Find someone
nice.
to do the art for it.
That would be
Um,
wild to see like a
yeah,
dragon
we're gonna have to like
human.
put like disclaimers. Be
Right.
like, oh,
Just a few.
body horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really well. I think we all I think they made a lot of cool
Yeah,
stuff this
I
time.
love it.
A lot of cool stuff. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed your sort of time on the podcast, Paul. I think you made some really cool stuff.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was wonderful. I really have enjoyed like I mean, especially today, like seeing all of the designs. Like I was really was blown away by the caliber of both of your
No,
designs
thank you.
and like how evocative the
Thank you.
the design was. Like immediately can see what you guys were both going for. Really great. Yeah, and thank you for the prompt. It was a really fun prompt. I hope to
Of
work on
course.
it more.
Yeah. Yeah, if you expand upon it, I would love to see
Yeah,
that. That'd be really cool.
it is really cool.
Um,
Man. Oh,
yeah. Again, every time we do one of these episodes, we come out with some really cool stuff, and it's always like flabbergasting to see like what we make and the stuff we come out with. Because it's again, I think a lot of people put up in their mind, oh, designing is this huge deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? This huge thing you can't like it takes forever to do, and you're like, oh, I can't do this, right? But no, like if you spend like a few hours doing it, like if you have something like to prompt you to do like this podcast, you make some cool
yeah.
stuff
Right.
that other people might be interested in. and I think this podcast definitely changed how I view designing as a whole.
All right. Well, I think that's everything. I think the last thing we need to know is, well, obviously, they can find us, hopefully here where you're listening to us on YouTube, most likely. You can find all our links down below for Blue Sky, Discord, etc., including now our itch.io, where all of these projects will be available for you to view in their current form. Paul, where can our lovely listeners find you?
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me everywhere online as Heart of Arcana. My itch.io page, my Instagram on DriveThruRPG, or if you just search Paul Ligorsky. As far as I know, I'm the only one that exists. So you can also search my first and last name. The chances are slim that you would come up with someone who's Paul Ligorsky who's not a tabletop role-playing game designer. Yeah, bunch of products out for Draw Steel, more to come. Really excited for more content to be put out, and can't wait for what you guys put out too. Really excited.
Thank you. All right. Well, until next time, everyone.
See y'all.
Bye bye.